A job is meant for working hard, but not for resting. That's what the protagonist was thinking. The others had already turned their attention to their colleague Weng. The colleague wonders if he worked yesterday. And also, there are already cries that the guy's pulse is not palpable and it is necessary to call an ambulance. And here's Weng himself. He fell down while getting to his workplace with a cup of coffee. After 10 years of hard study, Weng got a college degree and worked for 2 years. The average overtime work exceeded 4 hours daily, working without a day off for 3 months. In his 20s, the guy's health was like that of a 70-year-old. Even he himself admits that his life was no better than that of a mere dog. While his colleagues tried to shout to the guy, he had already closed his eyes and fell into some strange dream, filled with strange and unrelated things, as well as where everything is depicted in green color scheme. When he came to his senses, he felt a sharp pain. He didn't realize what had just happened, whether he was dead or not. It all reminded him of some kind of dream. But it wasn't a dream. He opened his eyes a little and noticed blood on his hand. What he saw around him didn't make him very happy. There were some strange and frightening creatures and monsters around. All the buildings were battered, as if the hands, paws, or tentacles of these monsters had collapsed on them. One could also spot some sort of monster extermination team that was in the thick of things. To say that this surprised the guy is not to say anything. He was incredibly shocked. He didn't realize what had happened, and if he had traveled through time and something like that. Looking at the reflection on the axe he had in his hands, he saw that instead of a human head, he had a dog's head. And what was that stupid face looking back at him in the reflection? He grabbed his cheeks and began to pull them away, still staring at his reflection. All he could think was that this wasn't all just some stupid dream, and this strange creature was him with the head of a dog. After dying of overwork, he had turned into a werewolf with a dog's head. What the hell is that? Sure, he said his life was no better than a dog's, but that didn't mean he wanted to be a dog at all. Meanwhile, a huge monster that looked a bit like a monster-like flower let out a growl. This sent shivers down the spine of the average office worker. Suddenly, he noticed in the reflection that he seemed to have turned into a human again, and he didn't understand why it happened, because just now he had a dog's head instead of a human head. At the same moment, the monsters came too close and he was already within range of their attacks. Now it was no longer a question of whether he was a human or a dog. His priority was survival, and life could be about to end. The humans from the monster extermination team, meanwhile, are escaping. The monster level exceeds level 3, so they need help. Someone asks the commander to call for help, and someone is asking about whether they should retreat. At the same time, the man heard a voice saying that the infected should not retreat. Weng doesn't understand where the strange voice is coming from. He hears that he must do his best not to let the monster escape from the third block, that he must destroy all of them at any cost. The infected have no right to retreat, and all those who violate the order will be executed on the spot. Finally, the guy notices where the noise was coming from. It turned out to be a collar. It was a revelation to him. He's wearing a collar, and what kind of attitude they have towards humans. So they're infected. The monster tossed aside the people who tried to stop it. The guy taking cover behind the wreckage of a building notes that the monster looks cool. He is even annoyed that they are shouting to do at any cost, but the commander himself is not here. So all he can do is give orders through his collar. Reminding himself that he is not of this world, he decides not to participate in all of this. Then sadly notes that he died before this transformation after all. He then makes an attempt to lie on the ground and just pretend to be dead. Perhaps this is what will allow him to leave unnoticed as soon as the opportunity arises. In the meantime, the collar still gives out loud commands for the infected to kill the monsters at any cost. Noticing that no one is paying attention to him, he decides that now would be a good time to escape. However, he got tired of crawling pretty quickly, and he hadn't eaten since last night. He wanted to drink tea and milk. As the commands continued to sound and the infected continued to die, the guy was just thinking about whether there was tea and milk in this world, whether there was crawfish in this world, whether there was fried chicken, and so on. The commands kept going on and on. The boy thought of chocolate, and then immediately remembered that chocolate was not to be eaten by dogs, for they would die. He wondered what would happen to him after eating chocolate, considering he had a dog's head. Slowly but surely he crawled to one of the buildings, then threw on his cap and decided to look around inside. An exit was already looming on the horizon. He was so excited at what he saw. However, the monster struck with its tentacles right in front of him, and the guy was protected by the girl, covering him with herself. The poor girl was thrown quite far away from this blow. The monster roared and prepared to attack the girl again. The guy pulled his cap over his eyes and decided that it was none of his business. The monster was already hovering over the girl and had his tentacles. Closing her eyes, the pink-haired girl is indignant that the monster is ugly and hurts her, and in general, how he caught her. However, when she opens her eyes, she notices that she was attacked, not by a monster with tentacles, but that someone did not save her and is carrying her in his arms. The guy's head, meanwhile, has started to turn into a dog's head again. He is directly enveloped in energy. He even tries to justify that he saved the girl and intervened just this once, and that's it. Wang doesn't even realize himself why he even intervened in the first place. The girl is surprised by the fact that he came after her and saved her. She even repeats it twice. She then also starts stroking the dog's head, stating that he is the same dog. She didn't realize it would be so much fun. The guy is so pleased with the head stroking. To get out of it all, he asks her to stop, especially since she's still in great danger. The protagonist wishes he could come up with a plan for them to escape. The pink-haired girl, pointing to the collar, reminds him that they will be torn apart if they leave the area. The girl even thought that the guy decided to die with her. Hearing this, the guy immediately stops. Now he understands everything. He said something about some human rights, and here it is like this. It's not surprising to him that the infected didn't rush to escape even when the danger was maximum. He wonders if he'll be able to escape with his head still in place. This world seemed to be too unfriendly to newcomers. Since they stopped, the monsters caught up with them rather quickly. Wang wonders why there are more and more monsters and why they are all coming towards them. The girl, on the other hand, shows with all her looks that she is not a damsel in distress. The answers to the guy's questions are not surprising to her because she is a monster hunter. Having said that, they dodge the monster's attacks. The guy decides that he has no other choice. Now all he has to do is fight. He even assumes that after his rebirth, he must have been given some extraordinary abilities. But contrary to what he says, one of the monsters destroys him with a tentacle, and Wang thinks about what a weakling he is. A pink-haired girl stands up for him, and with a single kick of her foot, she blows apart one of the monster's tentacles and orders him not to touch the dog. The girl asks if the dog is okay, and also tells him that even if the monsters are torn to pieces, they can still regenerate. The guy is surprised that they can regenerate so quickly and easily. The girl, on the other hand, informs him that she will just kill all the monsters, but the dog doesn't understand how the girl will do that if the monsters regenerate. He wonders if the girl has some sort of plan. The girl rips off her belt, then shoves some kind of thing in it, and suddenly it all turns into a huge-sized scythe. The girl even screams that now the monster will definitely die. Taking this huge scythe with ease, she jumps on this monster with tentacles, calling it a freak. The guy looking at all this was a little surprised. It turns out the girl did not need his rescue at all, and he was making a hero of himself. Meanwhile, the pink-haired girl is chopping up the monster. She needs to find the core to tear the monster to pieces. Dog thinks about what you've heard, so these monsters have a heart of sorts, and it's a core. If you destroy the core, you can kill it. Suddenly, he starts to smell and feels like he has an ability. His sense of smell is greatly enhanced. Every object around him has a unique odor. These monsters smell of blood and rot. There's also the smell of burning, and it's everywhere here. There's also a pleasant odor. It's that girl with the scythe. At this point, he takes a whiff and seems to find what he was looking for. He yells to the girl to listen to him, and that the core is right there. The girl doesn't seem to hear him. Apparently she's too engrossed, as if she's lost her mind. He takes something like a spear and stabs the monster, hoping his plan will work. The pink-haired girl stops and notices that something in the monster's behavior has changed. The dog's surprise is less. It turns out that his theory worked. However, the monster suddenly braids the guy along his arms and legs with its tentacles. This was definitely not something the guy had counted on. He started panting tremendously, once again feeling that his life was about to be cut short for the second time. So that was the end of his day-long journey to another world. However, suddenly he is called an idiot. These words burst out of a huge flaming mouth. The guy is surprised by this turn of events. It turns out he is still not dead, but is inside his subconscious. In his subconscious is a huge throne room, in the center of which sits someone resembling his current one, a chained werewolf. All around the subconscious in this hall are chains, as if a deterrent to this madness. Looking at this monster, Wang assumes that this beast is the original consciousness of this body he is currently in. There were some statues of people he didn't know everywhere. He wondered what these statues were. But then this big guy in chains spoke up and called someone a mean breed. Wang said hello to him. However, all of this really scared him and left him puzzled, as he didn't realize whether the prisoner in chains was talking to him or not. Besides, the prisoner did not look weak. The captive, on the other hand, was only throwing out scraps of words about how unforgivable it was and that he should kill them all. His gaze became incredibly wild, and he uttered that everyone should die. Wang was greatly frightened by such a thing, and then his body felt as if it was pierced with energy, and that energy filled his body. Suddenly, Wang's consciousness came to his senses, and he lightning quickly broke the monster's tentacle bindings that were restraining him. Even the pink-haired girl paid attention, though she was busy with her fight. The guy, who had become more like a large dog or wolf, easily grabbed the core or heart of the monster that had almost killed him a while ago. Then he squeezed the heart with his huge paw, and the remnants scattered in different directions. The monster let out a deafening roar, and then died. And do you think that the guy will become the same by the results of his journey as that monster which sits chained in his subconscious? And by the way, remember that work is not everything in your life, so take care of your health. The entire body of the monster that looked like a flower shrank. The pink-haired girl kept looking at the monster, trying to understand what had happened. The team responsible for destroying the monster was also a little puzzled. They were happy that the flower monster was dead, but they didn't really understand how it happened. Meanwhile, the dog's head began to fade away. A moment later, Wang regained his human head. Suddenly, some powerful energy materialized in his hand. This mysterious energy flew off the guy's hand and plunged into his chest. At the same moment, it was as if he was inside himself, and the monster flower reappeared right in front of him. Wang realized that he was most likely in his subconscious. The only thing he didn't understand was why the monster had reappeared in front of him. However, the guy must have forgotten that he was not alone in his subconscious mind, and his inner monster was not slumbering either. The monster flower shook as the giant dog appeared in front of him, ready to tear him apart. And so it does. The giant dog mauled the flower monster in one sitting and ate it, leaving the flower monster no chance. Wang was scared as hell. An ordinary working guy would definitely never dream of seeing such a thing. After eating, the giant beast only picked its claws in its teeth. The monster complained that it was too little and wanted more food. At the same moment, Wang heard the pink-haired girl call out to him, and he suddenly came to his senses, coming out of his subconsciousness. The girl is happy that they won. She wonders if the dog got the monster core. This strange world is too dangerous for the guy, so he decides he's going to keep his head down until he's finally dealt with everything. Wang reports that he found nothing, and that perhaps one of the girl's attacks destroyed the core. He even praises the girl, stating that she was great. To Wang's surprise, the girl is incredibly proud after saying this, as she is a monster hunter and she will slay them all. The men who had been sent to their deaths also began to discuss the girl. One of them noticed how she fought. He thinks the girl is really crazy. Another man tells of a rumor that has been going around about the girl. That one day, the pink-haired girl will go crazy and start destroying the world. No one still didn't understand what they should do next, as the monster had finally been defeated. Suddenly, people in full uniforms appeared, their faces also covered. Wang wonders to the girl who these people are. One of the arrivals turns to the captain. He confirms the death of the ghost-level monster YC-9523 in the third block. In response, the captain orders him to organize troops to clear the battlefield, remove the monster's organs, and avoid the spread of infection. A subordinate then tells all those in charge to get to work immediately. Wang and the rest of the infected are put into a car to take them to the base. After a while, they had already reached the base, which was near the sea. It was Xiangyu, a heavily guarded area, which was not surprising considering the type of infected being held there. Wang looked around, trying to get a good look at the place they had gotten into. There were guards, nurses, and the rest of the infected around. This was the very place where the infected are kept. Satisfied with herself, the pink-haired girl walked up to Wang and put her hand on his shoulder. The other infected were surprised. They wondered if Leia had been switched, and if this was the unapproachable demon Leia they knew. The men were surprised because normally the girl doesn't get close to anyone. This made them develop an interest in Wang. Leia immediately cooled their ardor and yelled at them that she heard everything and how they talked about her. She even threatened to kill them. The men were scared out of their wits at such a statement. The guard also reacted and yelled at Leia to calm down. He ordered all personnel to immediately line up for inspection. This reprimand really displeased Leia, as she was powerless here. She walked up to the guy who was telling gossip about her and kicked him angrily. At the same time, she smiled happily at Wang and told him that she would find him later. Wang was surprised by this behavior of his new acquaintance and did not yet know whether this boded trouble or good for him. Wang comes to the inference that if there is a check in this place, then they may not be the only ones who are sick. And it turns out that this place is not only a hospital, but also a prison. Wang was bothered by only one thought. He hoped that all the infected could turn into dogs, and he wasn't the only one. The guard ordered everyone to gather immediately, as each person had to be examined by a doctor. He also ordered everyone to shut up. One of the infected took umbrage at YC9523, getting the wrong grade in the last battle. Another man is surprised by this fact. A third man asks them to shut up as they might be overheard. One of the men points to Wang and informs the others that a real disaster was avoided thanks to Wang. The other man was surprised. He didn't believe that Wang was able to deal with the monster with one punch. He would rather believe that Leia had dealt with the monster. The infected who were in this sortie don't really care about the point. The main thing is that for passing this level, they are rewarded, and quite a good one. Wang realized it right away. Almost all of the infected are just a group of idiots who are not much different from typical prisoners. They try to get ahead, and whoever is in charge sends them to more and more hell. Wang has learned this lesson in his past life. Wang is sure that if the others find out what is inside him, they will kill him immediately. Wang realizes that his only chance for salvation is to escape. In order to make a successful escape from this place, he must behave with restraint. He decides to be more modest in order to gain his freedom. However, his plans are immediately ruined. The blonde stood up and informed everyone that the monster YC9523 was not killed by Leia, but by Wang. All of the infected's gazes turned towards Wang, who had only decided to sit quietly and unnoticed. However, almost immediately, the infected all burst out laughing, because according to them, there was no way Wang could have defeated that monster. Blondie agrees with them that it may sound unbelievable, but it's true. He tells them that the dog successfully found the core thanks to his sense of smell, which is 20 times stronger than that of an ordinary human. Blondie confirms that he saw the whole thing. Blondie was just about to tell the others what the dog had screamed when he was immediately shut his mouth, not allowing him to say anything else. Wang grabbed the blonde by the scruff of his neck and dragged him around the corner. Wang good-naturedly motioned for the others to continue their conversation. Wang yelled at the blonde man. Wang didn't understand who the blonde man was at all and why the blonde man started to advertise him like that in front of others. Wang also wondered how the blonde knew that Wang was the one who killed the monster. The blonde man, with a confused look, informs him that his name is Xu Jie and he is actually Wang's roommate. Wang is a little confused because he doesn't remember this. He just got into this body. Xu Jie knows that Wang can't defeat such a monster, but he thinks that the other infected are fools and will believe such nonsense. Wang is glad that the blonde man realizes that Wang couldn't defeat that monster. Xu Jie told this story so that something like this would be a motivation for the other infected to try harder on missions. Wang apologizes with a goofy look and says that he just forgot all about it. Wang puts it down to the fact that he bumped his head during the fight. Meanwhile, a nurse comes over and starts calling out the number 7763 and asking where he is. The nurse called Wang, the number 7763, and the name Jiang Wang. It seems in this world he has the name Jiang Wang, since the guy immediately responds to this name. He informs Xu Jie that he is going for a checkup and that they will talk later. Xu Jie is not that simple. He is definitely not a fool, so he immediately notices that Jiang Wang has changed somehow. He even makes a crazy suggestion that maybe Jiang Wen isn't who he says he is and has been switched with someone else today. The infected's health check was unbearably hard. Jiang Wang even felt like he was being called a monster, an infected, a monster, and that he was wished to die. However, an incredibly beautiful nurse soon appeared, who lovingly wanted to examine Jiang Wang and asked him not to be afraid. The guy who couldn't move anymore was unable to resist such a nurse. His nose was even bleeding. The nurse took out a huge syringe and was about to inject Jiang Weng, the guy, as much as he could from this procedure, although his red face proved that he did not mind to do it, and rather even in favor of this initiative. He was so willing to trust the nurse that his feelings for her became incredibly inflamed, and his head once again turned into a dog's head from pleasure. In the same instant he awoke. All of this was just his nightmare. Too much had come over him on his first day in his new-to-him world. He was glad that at least there was a nurse. When Jiang Weng turned his head to the left, he noticed Leia sitting in front of his bed. Jiang Weng was greatly surprised by this sudden turn. He actually cried out. He didn't understand how the girl got into his room. Leia asked the guy to be quiet as she had secretly sneaked into his room. Wiping his eyes, Jiang Weng wondered what the girl forgot in his room, and even in the middle of the night, Leia thought the guy was having such a funny sleep, which is why she decided to watch him. Leia reminds the guy that it is customary to pay for salvation. Since Jiang Weng saved her today, Leia wants to pay the guy back. Jiang Weng is surprised. That's how the girl thinks. Then he wonders how Leia is going to repay him. For starters, Leia is going to get under the blanket. Jiang Weng wonders what she is going to do next, but Leia asks the guy to be quiet. Watching all of this is Zhu Jie, who is being kept awake by these two. Shuji realized that Jiang Weng seemed strange and distracted for a reason. Shujai seems to have realized the reason. It's all spring, the time of breeding. The girl is about to embrace Jiang Weng with her arms. Jiang Weng, like a faithful dog, even has his tongue sticking out. He's not wagging his tail like a dog, and that's because he hasn't transformed yet. Leia wrapped her arms around Jiang Weng's neck so tightly that the guy thought that the girl was about to strangle him. At the same moment, the couple notices Shuji sitting and glowering. Leia asks Shuji why he is still awake. Shujai takes her hint without any unnecessary explanation. Shujai decides to leave the room and asks the couple to have fun, and he will cover for them. Leia even felt like she liked Shujai as well, except that Jiang Weng isn't particularly pleased that his roommate is escaping like this. After all, Leia is completely inept at doing what the guy wants. Jiang Weng even asks Shukai not to leave and help him. Shuji is surprised, for he doesn't understand how he can help. Jiang Weng exclaims that Shujie is just thinking about the wrong thing. Leia doesn't understand, as she has to do a favor for a favor. However, Jiang Weng asks her to drop the idea. Shujie asks them to keep their voices down, as the guards can hear them. Meanwhile, night guards patrol the area. At this moment, another person was heading towards the guards. I wonder what trouble awaits the guy and his friends, and also how he will get out of these problems. The guard first wondered who was in front of him. However, when the man stepped out of the shadows, the guard recognized him immediately. The man introduced himself and said that he was from the task force, from the 3rd squad. The man also showed a piece of paper. It was a license to seize the infected. The man needed 3 infected to accomplish the mission, and he demanded those infected right now. As they walked towards the infected, the guard asked if the man had anyone in particular in mind. Carefully looking over the names of the infected on the 1st floor, the man informed him that he didn't have a specific person for the mission yet, but he had a hunch they were here. After a while, he ordered that the 2nd floor be examined. The guard understood the order. The trio still continued to make noise. Jiang Weng was still asking Leia to leave his room. He even wondered if it could be considered an escape. Leia doesn't think she has anything to be afraid of. Jiang Weng thinks he has something to be afraid of. Shuji is still trying to be invisible. He asks Jiang Weng to ignore him. He can wait in the restroom while Jiang Weng finishes having fun with Leia. The guy tried to chase the girl away with the promise that they would meet up later, but the girl thought the guy was lying to her. The guys finally opened the doors for Leia to leave their room, and just at that moment, the commander and the guard walked past their room. Everyone present didn't expect this turn of events and looked at each other suspiciously. After that, the guys realized that now they would be reprimanded by the guard, sharply closed their door, wishing the 2 men a good night, as if no one had noticed them. The guard, as expected, became furious at this turn of events. He immediately began reprimanding Leia for sneaking out of her cell again. The guard told them to open the cell doors. When the guard opened the door, he wondered who had allowed the infected to hold meetings. The guard even wanted to send everyone present to the lockup. Jiang Weng tried to change his mind. Shujai also said that everything has a price. That's why he suggested to discuss everything personally with the guard. Leia, on the other hand, is not going to hide anything. She calls the guard a jerk because she just got lost on the way to the shower room. Jiang Weng is sure that the guard has a small salary, which angered the guard. While Jiang Weng was begging the guard to be merciful, the man from the task force started looking at the guy carefully. The man immediately informed Jiang Weng that here he was, meeting him. Jiang Weng does not understand anything. However, the guard is angry at Jiang Weng for just standing up. As it turns out, the commander chose Jiang Weng for the mission. The guy doesn't understand what mission we are talking about. Jiang Weng starts faking it, stating how much pain he is in. He reports that the wound he got during yesterday's battle hurt a lot. Even the nurse said that he should rest for at least 10 more days. Everyone present was perplexed by his words. Jiang Weng apologizes and informs them that he cannot take part in the mission. He even reminds the guard that the guard was going to send him to lockup. Shujai tries to shut the guy's mouth and informs him that he was just joking like that. He even asks for just a minute to talk to Jiang Weng. Shujai wonders to the guy what he is doing. After all, he was going to try his best to prove himself. That is why Shujie doesn't understand why Jiang Weng would miss such an opportunity. He also notes that Jiang Weng is not a good actor. Jiang Weng says that Shuji can do what he wants, but he won't fight anymore. Shuji, on the other hand, informs him that the likelihood of there being someone like YC9523 this time is extremely low. Therefore, he believes that the guy has nothing to worry about. If that's not enough words either, then Shuji puts his hand on Jiang Weng's shoulder and tells him that if he cares so much, he will also go along with him this time so that Jiang Weng will feel safe. Shujai thinks that this time they will definitely succeed in gaining recognition and proving their importance. The guard is against this, however, because the commander hasn't said a word about Shujie. Leia is not going to be left out, so she raises both hands and declares that she will also go with the others. The guard tells the girl not to interfere and demands that the girl return to her cell. Shujie, on the other hand, informs Jiang Weng that he will be by his side. The guard here, too, tells them not to decide things on their own. Leia also declares that she doesn't care, and if the dog and the yellow head go, she'll go too. Leia does not understand why she is not allowed to go. The guard, on the other hand, is too noisy with all these infected. The commander can't stand all this talking noise, so he tells everyone to shut their mouths. He says he'll be the only one talking now. He will decide who he will take and who he will not. The commander tells all three to expect him at 6 in the morning and no tardiness, and then leaves. Leia is happy as she goes on the mission along with the dog. She even announces the formation of an invincible team. Shuji is happy as well. Jiang Weng alone is depressed as his life is ruined. The commander is not simple either. He was also happy that Jiang Weng would go with him, even though it turned out to be a bit more complicated than he had planned. In the morning, all three of them met with the commander. The commander informed them that his name was Ling Bo, and that he was in charge of this mission. He also informed them to call him Captain Ling, and since this is the first time they are all working together, Captain Ling reminds them that he is counting on them. Leia is happy. Shujie is also happy, only Jiang Weng alone is still not happy. Ling Bo did not delay since they have already reached the research institute. He points the others to the research institute and informs them that this institute was established 15 years ago to observe monsters. Later, they entered the institute's laboratory. Captain Ling informed that this laboratory is off-limits to ordinary personnel. A few days ago, there was a theft in this lab. A batch of monster organs that were to be used in next week's experiments were stolen. Jiang Weng is upset by the information he heard. After all, since they're monsters, even they're expendable. Shujai reminds his friend not to underestimate the monster organs. He even thinks that his friend still hasn't recovered from his amnesia. Shuji informs him that after battles, they always send the monster organs to this lab for research. He reminds them that although the risk of infection from contact with them is quite high, the monsters are of great research value. The treatments that help the infected avoid worsening their condition happen to be based precisely on monster organ research. Also, another important point is that most of the modifications to the guards' weapons and the infected's weapons as well are also related to the research at this institute. These words make Jiang Weng take a look at the weapons that Leia always carries. Captain Ling, who heard all this, confirms Shuji's words. That's why Captain Ling reminds him that the monster's organs need to be returned. He showed Jiang Weng a crate that contained a particular batch of monster organs and asked the guy to try to find something using his sense of smell. However, upon approaching the crate, Jiang Weng notices that the formalin practically overpowers all other odors, making it impossible to identify them. Xu Jai immediately inquires with the captain about the surveillance cameras installed in the lab. But as it turns out, the surveillance system had been turned off days ago. There were no witnesses, no shoe marks, no fingerprints, and no hair. The thief who broke into the lab left no evidence behind. The captain reports that the work was professional and that they have only a week to solve this theft case. Xu Jai reminds him that there's a slight possibility that there's no genius thief who broke into the lab, and that it could just be some intern's carelessness. Leia agrees with him. However, the captain reported that there was no record of it. Jiang Weng, on the other hand, doesn't want to deal with this theft case at all. He doesn't want to work at all, and is only thinking about how he can make it through just 1 week. While he was unconsciously touching the collar, he suddenly remembered about it. He remembered that he wouldn't be able to do anything with this collar on anyway. However, collar control doesn't work on a mission. In this theft mission, he saw his chance. This was his chance to escape from this place. He immediately turned to the others and reported that he had figured out everything in this theft task. Jiang Weng put on his glasses and asked the others to ponder the theft case a little differently. When the others didn't understand what he was talking about, he decided to explain. He reminded them that no matter what method the thief used, the thief had clearly prepared for it. Therefore, the all-glowing Jiang Weng asks to look for where the thief might have taken it all to. If they can find the place, it will definitely help them. Leia was all glowing. After hearing the information from the guy, she even praised him. Xu Jai was also happy that finally a friend had suggested something sensible. The captain said that he had also thought of starting the investigation with a motive, but it's quite a time-consuming task. Jiang Weng asks the captain not to worry about anything, because with the help of their abilities, their team will succeed. Leia is already all excited to enter the battle. Xu Jie is also ready to do his best. Looking at the trio standing in front of him, the captain sighed and decided that this was really the only way out in the current situation. Thinking about where the first place the organs could have been sold to, there's only one place that comes to the captain's mind. And that place is called the black market. Jiang Weng is happy to hear the news because everything worked out and he has a chance to escape. Meanwhile, some guy who had been working since he was a little kid reported that he was from Luguan restaurant and had come to pick up a fresh batch of goods. He required everything to be delivered to the restaurant before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He needed 100 kilograms of mussels, 100 kilograms of shrimp, 150 kilograms of clams, and 25 kilograms of fish. Suddenly, the guy was thrown the fish and told that it was for his boss. The guy immediately understood everything. At the same moment, the lad collided with the captain, whereupon he fell painfully on the wooden pier. The captain asked the guy to be more careful. Suddenly, everyone noticed what fell from the guy's hands. This fish was obviously not of the best quality. The guy was immediately frightened, grabbed the fish with a quick movement, and rushed to run away. Xu Jai even tried to stop the guy. However, the captain asked him not to worry, as it was just a slightly infected fish. The captain brought all 3 of them to Shubang Wharf. It was quite a popular place. This place was called the Black Market. As long as it was profitable, it was difficult to abolish the illegal trade. And because of the location, it's even harder to control the place. So officials turn a blind eye to everything, tacitly accepting the existence of the place as long as it doesn't cause much trouble. After listening to all this, Jiang Weng once again turns his attention to the fleeing guy with the fish. The captain reminds him that they don't have much time, so they need to find the thief who stole the monster's organs. The captain concluded that if the thief wanted to sell the stolen goods, he would definitely do it in this place. Any stall, restaurant, or fishing boat could be a haven for thieves, so the captain tells the trio to look around themselves. Shuji is surprised that they won't do the job altogether. Eventually, the captain informs them that he has better things to do. He tells them that if they find anything suspicious, they should report it to him. He even wishes the others good luck. And after that, the captain leaves them. Meanwhile, the captain did not go to rest. He went to one place. When he entered the establishment, everyone there was having fun. However, as soon as the captain opened the door, all the men's eyes immediately went to the captain. The captain is glad that everyone turned out today. He even declares that no one will be able to escape today. However, as it turned out, this was a premature opinion, for the captain had come to this place to rest. Taking off his jacket, the captain declares that he will get rich today. Another man even called him a jerk. The captain, however, informed everyone that no one would go home today unless they were drunk. He even tells the boss to bring in a dozen mugs of beer. Everyone in the bar was overjoyed. After a moment, the captain himself was happily pouring beer from the bottle into his mouth. At the same time, Shujai only noticed that the captain had really left them alone. He even seemed unreliable to Shujie. Jiang Weng, on the contrary, thinks that the captain did the right thing. After all, they only have 7 days to find a needle in a haystack. Therefore, the best option is to split up and act. Jiang Weng decided to go ahead and contact them later. Leia, at this moment feeling free, was already running away from them in the opposite direction. Shujai was at a loss, as he didn't know what to do in such a situation. In the back of his mind, Jiang Weng apologized to the guys, as he would have to act on his own. He decided to bring everyone here not to investigate, but to regain his freedom. Walking through the black market, he notices that there is a very diverse crowd in this place, and the chance that he will find the right person for him is quite high. He needed someone to take the collar off of him. He only had 7 days, so he didn't want to waste a minute. From the moment he entered the black market, there were many strangers' eyes on him. Finally, after a while, Jiang Weng reached one building in the black market. He thought that this was the starting point of his search. At the entrance to the establishment, the guy was greeted with a smile by an employee. Meanwhile, night had fallen and the captain still continued to drink, not wanting to go anywhere. The next morning, Leia and Shuji still also went in search of the stolen organs. After finding a place to sleep for the night, Leia slept in the bed while Shuji sat outside the door. The third day came. The morning came quickly and the black market was fully operational again. Jiang Weng let out a frustrated sigh. It was more difficult than he had anticipated. In 3 days, he still hadn't managed to accomplish anything. He had already noticed that this restaurant was obviously not that simple, but he still hadn't been able to find out anything. There was too little time for such a task. Suddenly, the employee who was only talking to the guy who came in ran to his boss. The boss's smile could not be hidden after his words. The boss didn't hesitate to run to see what his subordinates had done. The subordinates were all smiles when the boss ran out to meet them. He asked if they had succeeded. One of the subordinates said that they had succeeded. He even praised the boss because he was incredibly talented and that his method had worked. The other subordinate agreed with this statement. They gathered the infected creatures together, then starved them, and then forced them to fight each other. One of the infected became incredibly ferocious through this method. As soon as they opened the container, a monstrous monster emerged. This monster looked like a chimera, as if a fish had been combined with an arthropod. At the same time, the fish had giant fangs. Level, weak beast. The boss asked if anyone had discovered their plan, and the subordinate replied that it was simply impossible. The boss is incredibly happy to hear the news. He is glad because the more ferocious the monster, the more expensive it can be sold. Even for such a monster, he was expecting to get 100,000. Meanwhile, Jiang Weng was sitting on the roof with his hood over his head like a Spider-Man. He knew that there was something going on in this place, but he didn't think it would be this much fun. Suddenly, the monster became enraged and pushed his subordinates away. The monster was about to escape, however. The boss told his subordinates not to let the monster escape. At the same moment, right in front of the monster, Jiang Weng jumped off the roof. The boss immediately told the guy to stop the monster. Jiang Weng is upset. He doesn't understand why people want to possess what they are not supposed to. He reminds him that it's the boss's monster, so he and his subordinates should help Jiang Weng. The monster still keeps running at the guy, so he has no choice. Jiang Weng firmly grabs the wooden beam like a baseball bat and swings like he's trying to hit a home run. The boss practically has tears in his eyes as the defeated monster falls right in front of him. The boss is incredibly upset because now he won't get his 100,000. Frustrated and furious, the boss wonders who the guy in front of him is. Jiang Weng is practically sickened by the stench that comes from the monster. Since the boss asks who he is, Jiang Weng informs him that he is the one who knows their secret. The boss and his subordinates immediately stared at the collar around Jiang Weng's neck that he had specifically shown them. Seeing the collar on the guy, they were immediately wary because he is infected. Jiang Weng admits that the boss is not mistaken and that he is the infected one. The guy immediately informs the boss not to worry. Jiang Weng didn't have any thoughts of reporting them, and he doesn't realize if there's any point at all. Then the boss asks what the stranger wants from him. Jiang Weng says that he came to ask some questions, and he hopes to get an answer to them. And if the answers are different from what he knows, It will make for an uncomfortable situation. The boss immediately realized that it sounded like a threat, so he became even more wary. Jiang Weng asked his first question. How long had the boss been working in this field? The boss said that he inherited the restaurant about 7 years ago. Jiang Weng immediately noticed that in 7 years, the boss must have acquired connections. Even more wary, the boss informed that he had some connections. Then Jiang Weng asked the third question. Was there anyone who could remove the collar from him? The boss was incredibly shocked when he heard what the guy standing in front of him said. Jiang Weng once again points out that the boss didn't hear it and that he is looking for someone to take the collar off him. The guy notices that this is also beneficial to the boss. After all, what the boss is doing is not normal. If the boss will help him, he will help the boss. The boss immediately informs him that he has a man who can remove the collar. He offers to take the guy to him. Jiang Weng likes people with business acumen. However, the boss shows his subordinates a thumbs up, and they somehow smile grimly. I wonder if they're going to harvest the guy's organs. I've seen something like this before. Meanwhile, Shujai notices that their friend has been gone for days. Leia is also upset that her dog is missing. The captain was also nowhere to be seen. Shuji only hoped that nothing bad had happened in the meantime. The boss led the guy to have his collar removed. Jiang Weng inquired whether they had a long way to go. Then the boss admits that removing the collar privately is a serious offense. Therefore, it is logical that one should hide well if one is engaged in such a thing. The boss informs him that they are almost there. The boss is already happily noticing the guy calmly walking into his ambush. All the subordinates in the neighborhood had already prepared. They were just waiting for the signal to start. One of the subordinates notices that the guy doesn't look very smart. Another subordinate doesn't think the guy might be able to fight back. The third subordinate was glad because the infected guy would be worth over 100,000. They all rejoiced because this is what happens when you get in their way. After that, the operation to capture the guy began, and all the subordinates jumped out of their hiding places. But there was no one in the alley, neither the guy nor the boss. Everyone had seen them going to that place, but at the moment, there was no them in that place. Meanwhile, in the neighboring alleyway, Jiang Weng clamped his hand over the boss's mouth. The subordinates were trying to find the boss and the infected. They decided to search all around. Jiang Weng ordered the boss to keep quiet. He recalls that he was sincere with the boss and the boss thought of killing him. He notices that all these people smell strongly of fish, so he immediately realized what was waiting for him next. The boss is almost crying as he realizes that his life is at stake. Jiang Weng asks the boss one last time if he has someone to help him. Since the boss refuses to talk, the guy reminds him that he has many ways to torment the boss. He grabs the boss's finger and notes that the boss seems to take poor care of his hands. It seems to the guy that the boss has so many burrs on his hands. He even offers to help the boss and tear them off one by one. The boss's eyes even started to bulge. After that, the guy didn't just talk, but did what he said he would do. The boss even cried from this pain. Jiang Weng doesn't understand why the boss doesn't tell him. He even calls the boss a stubborn talker. The boss couldn't stop his tears. It was only at this moment that Jiang Weng noticed that he had been gagging the boss all this time. He even apologized to the boss. He asks that when he let go of the boss's mouth, then he wouldn't think of screaming, because the boss hasn't seen all that the guy is capable of yet. As soon as he let go of the boss's mouth, the all-crying boss sat down on the ground and as if to let out a breath. Still crying, the boss immediately said that there was a place called Xiaguang. There was a person there who could help the guy remove the collar. Only the people living there would dare to do such a job. Jiang Weng inquired if the boss was cheating him this time. The boss immediately squeals with fear that he is not cheating him. The guy reminds the boss that if he finds out that the boss cheated him, the boss won't get off that easy this time. In the same instant, the guy's face turns into a dog face. He promised that if the boss had cheated him, he would arrange for the boss to have nothing to get burrs on. The boss was incredibly frightened by what he heard. The same boss who thought that he could do whatever he wanted and that no one would ever do such a thing to him. After saying those words, Jiang Weng immediately left the boss. And at the same moment, the subordinates arrived at the scene of their boss's humiliation. They kept wondering where the jerk who was next to the boss was. The guy was glad that he was finally able to find the information. The city in question was about 100 kilometers from the black market. He had 2 days left for everything. He's even trying to think positive that he'll definitely succeed in getting the collar off this time. Suddenly, in an alley, Jiang Weng bumps into a guy. and the guy's smell seemed familiar to him. This guy talking on the phone had the smell of a lab where monster organs were missing. The man informed his interlocutor that the goods were ready, and he demands that everything be as agreed, not a penny less in money or weapons, and that he was on his way. Jiang Weng, meanwhile, was hiding around the corner. The man smelled of formalin from the lab, even though the smell was faint, but it was definitely him. Jiang Weng even wondered if this was the thief they were looking for. Even if he is not a thief, he is definitely related to this case. The guy realizes that this encounter with a potential thief is too bad timing. If he reports the potential thief, it will ruin his plans. The captain, in the meantime, continued to party at the bar and not engage in his assignment. He even sings songs. Suddenly, someone called his phone and the all-cheerful captain answered the call. It was Jiang Weng, who still decided to report that the target had been located. He had found the kidnapper. The captain seemed to sober up from the information he heard and was no longer so drunk. Jiang Weng said that he was currently watching the potential thief. The potential thief was on his way to his city. Jiang Weng then reported that the suspect is a man about 175 centimeters tall, appears to be 27-28 years old, wearing a red and white twist, wearing a gold chain, has a tattoo on his head, no eyebrows. Now the suspect was about to board the dark red ship at the West Pier, so Jiang Weng asks the captain to hurry. Jiang Weng believes that he has done even more than what was required of him. After that, he is going to head to Xiaguang. At this time, the guy himself, someone was watching, hidden in the shadows, and the guy didn't even notice it. Meanwhile, the suspected thief had already negotiated with the captain of the ship. After their conversation, he easily jumped onto the ship. The captain and the others watched from hiding. Shujai wondered where the captain had been all this time and why he smelled so stinky. The captain, however, calls him an idiot and that he doesn't realize it's all a disguise necessary for the investigation. He even tells them to watch themselves first. Looking at the ship, he thinks that Jiang Weng must have talked about this ship. The ship had a completely ordinary number, and the captain was curious if it was related to this case. Shujai wondered where their friend was, and did he really tell the captain about everything but didn't show up himself? Unfortunately for them, the guy didn't respond to their messages. Leia is worried too, because the dog has been gone for days. Shujai assumes that the guy decided to investigate on his own. Leia, on the other hand, is worried that the guy might have been grabbed by those freaks. The captain thinks that if he got it right, he's got a big fish on the hook. He's even thinking about getting a promotion, and once he's on the thief's trail, he doesn't need the infected anymore. So he decides to send them back today. He is glad that the enemy blundered, and he managed to remain undetected by the enemy. He believes that he should follow the plan, and then everything will definitely work out. However, he did not consider other variables in his plan, for to his surprise and incredible shock, Leia and Shujie had walked out onto the dock directly to the ship while the captain was contemplating his promotion. The crew from the ship were suspicious of the arriving strangers. Shujai reports that they were investigating a case and needed to inspect the ships in this port. It was standard procedure, so he hoped for cooperation from the ship. Leia was also trying to insist on cooperation. The captain stared at the arriving strangers, and then, while another member of the ship's crew turned around and walked away, he demanded a warrant. Shuji was surprised when he heard about the warrant, because the others had agreed without a warrant. Leia was starting to get annoyed by this situation. Shujai read that maybe their captain had a warrant. The potential thief, meanwhile, was observing the situation through the ship's window. Shujai immediately tried to summon the captain to bring the warrant. The captain grabbed his head because he would definitely not get a promotion now. He called them idiots and asked them to stay out of it. The thief glanced at the captain, who had come out of hiding. He immediately informed his subordinate that these strangers were not who they said they were. The ship's captain insisted that without a warrant, they had no right to enter the ship. However, the guys bent their line that they were under investigation and they were obliged to cooperate. Shuji advised him not to complicate things and called out to the captain again. However, the captain of the ship had already gone to threaten that Shuji would become fish food. At this moment, the less patient Leia immediately kicked the ship captain in the face. The girl orders the ship captain to bring a bloodhound. Shujai notices how confident Leia is that they will definitely succeed. The ship captain pretends not to understand which bloodhound they are talking about. Leia tells him to move and do as she asks if he cares about his life. The would-be thief realizes that the strangers have figured something out, and he commands that they not be allowed to leave. At the same instant, people rushed out from everywhere and surrounded Ling Bo and his subordinate infected. The captain of the ship immediately stood up, grabbed his weapon, and reported that the strangers had messed with the wrong people. He started firing, and a large number of bubbles were sent towards Leia and Shujie. The guys didn't realize what it was. It wasn't until the captain realized everything, he immediately yelled that it was a secret weapon and urged the guys to dodge. The noise from the battle came to Jiang Wen's ears. He is even surprised that the sounds of battle from the ship even reach this place. Running away, the guy is comforted that the girl and the others will be okay. He knows that the others consider him their friend, but he doesn't want any trouble. He even apologizes to the others and says goodbye to them as friends. However, he himself runs out at exactly the wrong place and at the wrong time, as he encounters a large number of monsters. Shujai shields his hand from the bubbles, and as soon as the bubble touches his hand, and as soon as the bubble explodes, the captain declares that the weapon is made from the bones of a monster. The bubbles that come out of their weapons explode with a 60% probability. Therefore, the captain advises the boys to run away. However, Leia and Shujai find themselves surrounded by the bubbles. Leia notices that the guy never came back and that they must find him. Jiang Weng himself, in the meantime, encountered monsters. They were infected monsters, and he found himself somehow near them and didn't understand how it happened. Seeing the frightening aura emanating from these infected, Jiang Weng thought that he would definitely not live. However, all the monsters suddenly kneeled before him and informed him that they had finally met their great lord again. Looking at the monsters that kneeled before him, he didn't understand which great lord they were talking about. However, almost immediately, he came to the conclusion that they must be talking about the monster inside him, and that he was indeed a lord to them. It seems that this body is indeed some sort of monster leader. The monster with hair like vines asked if there was any progress on the Lord's mission. The guy absolutely didn't understand what mission it was talking about. He tried to go inside his soul to meet the monster inside him. Inside, he called out to the monster and felt that they should help each other and exchange information. Jiang Weng was even embarrassed. He was annoyed that the monster didn't answer his question in any way. He felt that next time he should make an agreement with the monster in advance. Looking at the monsters, Jiang Weng couldn't help but think about what would happen if he said that he was no longer their leader. He felt that he shouldn't do such a stupid thing, for he would be torn apart by the monsters right on the spot. The green monster girl was full of anger. In the end, Jiang Weng decided that he shouldn't show his weakness and pull himself together. He clucked his tongue. Immediately, the boar-like monster became very frightened. He noticed that the Lord was angry. The boar asked the captain to watch his tone, and so the third captain appeared. The boar reminds them that their Lord is on S level. They have been in hiding for 6 months now, and people have become much more vigilant and are taking precautions. Their master, on the other hand, has agreed to do the kind of dirty work they can't help him with. So all they have to do is trust. Jiang Weng was glad that the boar had spoken. This boar even seemed somehow familiar to him. After that, the boar said that he believed that the master would find the 0 infected. Jiang Weng was shocked when he heard that the idea was to find the 0 infected. The captain asks the boar to shut up, for she herself knows that the task of the master is not that easy. However, from the captain's observations, she believes that the master has other plans. Jiang Weng's plans were to remove the collar and escape. The guy already thought that this shrewd person had exposed him. The boar came to his rescue, saying that it was simply impossible and that surely the master had just changed his plan of action, as he couldn't abandon it. The captain told the boar to shut up. Angrily staring at the monster captain, Jiang Weng declared that the captain dared to teach him what to do and how to do it. The monster captain experienced awe and fear from that look and words. She immediately apologized to the master and declared that she had crossed the boundary. Meanwhile, in his thoughts, Jiang Weng was angry with himself. All this time, the monsters had been following him while he was in the black market, and he didn't even realize it. He complained that he lacked experience. However, he told himself to calm down because he needed to analyze the situation. According to the boar, he is a spy who was sent to find 0 infected. These monsters were his subordinates. They were continuously following him, so even if he took off the collar, he wouldn't be able to escape. These monsters would definitely not let him escape, and he wouldn't be able to defeat all these monsters because that monster inside him was still too weak. The guy had no idea what he should do in this situation. He needed to think of a way to get rid of the monsters. Meanwhile, Shujai was still being attacked with the bubbles released from the bone weapon. Leia was also fighting against the attackers. She was incredibly pissed off by all those bubbles. She declared that she would kill anyone who touched this guy. At the same instant, the suspected thief appeared behind her back. He immediately recognized the girl and advised her to do nothing. If she did anything at all, her friends would find out all the information about her. When Leia was attacked by multiple bubbles and stopped doing anything, the captain yelled at her. The captain realized that he shouldn't care and that he needed to escape from this place as quickly as possible. However, the captain was unable to escape as he was surrounded on all sides by the ship's crew members. He looked at his subordinates, and the situation around the situation was very bad. Leia had stopped doing anything, and Shujai was already exhausted and could no longer fight fully. At this moment, Jiang Wang decided that he needed to distract all these monsters. He asks them if they heard the noise. The captain of the monsters declares that they have heard and that the sound is coming from a ship. The boar immediately understands everything. The Lord wanted to say that this boat is not that simple, and that the fishermen are not simple. That's why the master has been watching them all this time. So the Lord thinks they have something to do with the case. And maybe they can find out about the 0 infected. The Lord just pretended to want to escape, but it was all a disguise so he could get close to them himself later. The boar notices that he expected nothing else from their great Lord. The arms of the monsters surged upwards as they praised their great Lord. Jiang Wang is glad that the boar has said all this. He notices that the boar is quite savvy, so he orders all the monsters to destroy the ship and the fishermen. The monster captain understood and accepted her great lord's order. Shuji, meanwhile, was receiving a slap in the face from the ship captain. Leia raised her hands and declared that they were surrendering, and only Ling Bo still didn't understand how he got into this situation. The would-be thief, meanwhile, was about to end all this squabbling. He took out a weapon, the exploding bone, enhanced version. This weapon was quite popular in the neighborhood. The official number is YC0467. The weapon uses part of the spine to make the weapon. It has an 80% chance of detonating, and the explosive power is equivalent to a Class A bomb. The potential thief decided to start with Shujai and had already taken aim at the guy. However, suddenly, the water behind him began to bubble suspiciously. In an instant, the ship was entangled with the plant-like vines, and the ship went down. The potential thief and the rest of the crew stood and just watched the ship go down. Captain Ling, Leia, and Shujie didn't realize what was happening around them either. Finally, the ship easily went underwater with a sudden movement, flooding the entire dock with water. The ship's crew panicked from side to side and then started to run away because now they noticed that it was a monster. It was the captain of the monsters. Number YC186. Codename Flower Spirit. Skill Plant Control. Level Ghostly. The ship's crew abandoned running away from this place. However, the monsters were already waiting for them on the land on the other side. The boar, as soon as it saw all those fishermen running straight towards them, told the monsters to kill them. The monsters started grabbing one fisherman after another. The fisherman only screamed pitifully and asked to report the monsters' invasion to the city. Some of the fishermen were mercilessly eaten by the monsters. Leia and Shujai were shocked by what they saw as they watched the monsters massacre the fishermen. Jiang Wang ran up to them and shouted that he didn't understand why they were still standing here. He told them to run away. Leia was happy to finally see the dog. Shujai was also happy that his friend managed to get out and that he was alive. As they ran away, Shujai wondered where the monsters came from. Jiang Wang had absolutely no idea what kind of monsters they were or where they came from. Therefore, he recommended everyone to run away, and Shujai asked where their captain was, and at the same moment, Captain Ling was hit with the butt of his gun by the captain of the ship. The ship captain finally found the captain. After all, the captain is a simple man, so he's bound to be killed by bubbles. However, Shujai suddenly stood up in defense of the captain and protected the drunkard from the bubbles. The captain of the ship only called him a jerk. He notices that the guy is already injured and still trying to be a hero. His blood even got on the ship captain. Shuji states that he should have just resolved the matter in a civilized manner. He doesn't understand why he had to go that far. He then declares with all the pathos that all those who opposed him will inevitably be punished. His blood is the judgment of the ship's captain. The man even laughed at the guy's words and whether the guy is talking to himself. After that, he decided that he should end it all. At the same moment, the captain of the ship was struck by lightning, although there was no attack from anywhere. The man didn't understand where this electricity came from, and Zhu Jie only reminded him that the more arrogant his opponent was, the more severe the punishment. Shuji ionized the blood. Degree of contamination, C-. When 7764's blood lands on another creature's body, special properties are activated, going into standby mode. When 7764 says snap, the blood strikes the target with a current charge. The intensity of the shock is related to the target's emotions at that moment. The stronger the emotion, the greater the intensity. Without a special command, the blood automatically sends a weak current discharge after 60 seconds. Shujai asks if Captain Ling is okay, and he happily informs her that he is fine. Of course he is, he almost died just now. I wonder how Jiang Weng will explain why the monsters came to the pier and didn't touch any of them, only the ship and the fishermen. And also how will he explain to the monsters what they were looking for on the ship, since the monsters dared to show themselves in front of the humans. The thief shouted to the others that they needed to catch the most important one, and then they would succeed. And at that moment, the green-haired monster captain appeared in front of them. The members of the ship thought that she was a ghost. They decided to all attack the flower spirit together, but their weapons the captain easily repelled without even swinging her arms. The thief finally noticed that the monsters in front of them were unusual and that they wouldn't last long. So while Jiang Weng and the rest were fleeing and the ship's crew was trying to hold back the monsters, the thief decided to escape by taking advantage of the commotion. Jiang Weng managed to turn around and noticed the thief running away. He immediately realized that the thief was the key to everything. If the guy can't escape now, he at least decides to try a different plan for the event. Jiang Weng informs his new friends that they need to split up and that they will meet at the hotel later. Leia and Shujai agree to this. Jiang Weng then joins Captain Ling and they pursue the thief together. Captain Ling informs that he has lived a long life, and so he immediately realized who they were after. So he asks Jiang Weng to follow him. The monster captain looked in the wake of the fleeing thief and Jiang Weng. By this time, the monster had already managed to kill all the members of the ship, which the boar reported to the monster captain. The boar informs the monster captain that the Lord has told them to retreat when they have dealt with the fishermen. The boar asks the monster captain to leave quickly before the fishermen's reinforcements arrive. The monster captain looked to follow her fleeing lord, who was chasing the thief. She had doubts about their lord. She frowned her face. She seemed to suspect something. A thief escaped from a dangerous place. Having escaped from pursuit, he immediately began to call his accomplice. The thief reported that a group of fake investigators, 3 people and a dog, had come to his base to search him. Also, he did not understand where the group of monsters that attacked them came from. He wonders to his interlocutor how he can find out if they are connected. The thief also informs him that he will be able to continue supplying. He commits to a steady supply of monster organs. It seemed to him that too much hype has been raised, which means that the relevant authorities will get involved. Therefore, he asked for help in hiding for a while. The thief said he was on the west coast and that he wasn't being followed because he wasn't new to the business. After that, the thief was going to wait for his interlocutor at that place. After a while, a man in a classic suit appeared on the coast with a briefcase in his right hand and also wearing glasses. The man had a scar over his left eye. Seeing his interlocutor, the thief immediately rejoiced because the boss had come in person. The thief asked if the money was in the briefcase, and if it was, the thief asked to give him the case. He also asked if the car was ready for him. However, the boss first asks if the 3 men saw the thief's face and if they are alive. The thief is furious, wondering if the boss is going to burn all the bridges. Because of his anger, he even holds a gun to the boss's head. The thief doesn't understand why the boss would do such a thing. The boss reports that the thief is in the supply business, and the boss pays for those supplies. The boss reminds him that the thief knows that all their deals are strictly confidential, and now the thief has started to get them in trouble. The boss coldly remarks that all these actions on the part of the thief are unprofessional. The boss also notes that it's also unprofessional on the thief's part to point the thing at him, especially since it won't work on him. The thief thinks the boss doesn't put him in anything, and it's as if the boss thinks the thief wouldn't dare do such a thing. After that, the thief immediately shoots the boss in the face. A briefcase fell out of the boss's hands at the same moment and landed behind the guy. The thief began to resent that the boss had used it and now decided to throw it out. This is why the thief asks that the boss not blame him for being ruthless. He decides that he will first take the boss's life and then reveal all the boss's dirty deeds. The thief decided to find the briefcase after that, but suddenly something came that the thief did not expect. The briefcase was empty. At the same moment, the boss informed him that, as he said, the thief's attack would not work on him. When the smoke from the attack cleared, it became apparent that the boss's body was fine. The boss's body was enveloped by some strange essence. The boss also notices that there is a real gulf between his and the thief's armament. This was another point in the thief's unprofessionalism. That entity was jellyfish armor, created from the body of a monster jellyfish armor, number YC0213. It combines fluidity and strength. It can take any shape. The boss then offers the thief a glimpse of what professionalism is and uses the shape of the jellyfish armor spikes. At the same moment, the boss's hands are covered with sharp spikes, and he quickly moves to the thief. The boss instantly attacked the thief and didn't leave him no chance. The large and sharp spikes struck the thief's entire body at an incredible speed. After that, the boss took away the thief's ability to think, as there was nothing else for him to think about. And while the head was rolling, the boss noticed something suspicious. Jiang Weng and Captain Ling hid behind a nearby rock. Jiang Weng wondered if they had been discovered or not, while the boss was looking exactly at the spot where they were hiding. The boss couldn't let the witnesses be left alive if there were any, so he went to see what was behind the stone. Looking behind the rock, the boss found 2 footprints. He immediately realized that something was not clean here, and that according to those footprints, there were 2 people here. Jiang Weng and Captain Ling meanwhile tried to escape. Jiang Weng wondered why the man wasn't chasing them, and if they had gone unnoticed. Jiang Weng thought that the guy was a common thief who was donating organs to that boss with the scar, which means it's an organized criminal trade. The captain ran as fast as he could because he noticed that the man with glasses was very dangerous, but he wondered who the man with glasses was. The captain thought of the man with the scar and kept repeating it. He thought he had seen this man. Finally, the captain managed to remember that 6 months ago there had been a tour of the lab. A group of executives came that day. In that group was this man with the scar. This man is the secretary of Sanju's organizational department, Wang Ai, and now it turned out that this man was the one behind the theft of the monster's organs. The captain began to complain about how he was an idiot and that he should have guessed earlier. After all, how the thief had managed to avoid the cameras was only if the thief knew the exact schedule. He knew all the details of the lab's layout, so he didn't leave a single trace. Without help from inside, the thief couldn't have pulled off something like this. The captain noted that his intuition had not failed him and that investigating was the right thing to do. He was even glad that he had definitely caught a big fish this time. The captain doesn't understand his situation at all, and he's incorrigible. Meanwhile, the 5th squad arrived at the scene of the battle between the monsters and the fishermen. The monster incident happened at pier number 13, so all the troops closest to the site were sent there. Jiang Weng and Captain Ling also arrived there and tried to pass so that they wouldn't be noticed. So Jiang Weng and Captain Ling arrived at the hotel. Leia was happy to see her dog and immediately climbed up for a hug. Leia and Shujai wondered where Jiang Weng and Captain Ling had gone. After a short story, the captain stated that the investigation is over, which means they can go back. The captain reports that they have all had a very hard time in the past few days. He must have forgotten that he had been drinking at the bar all those days. The captain states that after what happened, they can all be considered comrades for having survived death together. The captain suggests that they all have dinner, as they must be hungry. Leia immediately complains that she has no money for that. The captain sighs because they don't have to have money, since all food expenses are covered during the investigation. However, he states that excessive wastefulness should be avoided. I wonder how this drunk is going to provide his bosses with all the receipts for drinks and food from the bar. Shujai informs him that he knows a great place for such an occasion. After a while, they arrive at Shujai's designated location. Shujai immediately shouts to his mom that they have arrived. It turns out that Shujai has a mom. A woman came out of the house. She was surprised that Shujie had shown up. The mom was only expecting her son for the holiday in 9 days. She immediately wonders why the son came so early. Shuji introduced his friends to his mom, and also said that they were on a mission nearby, so Shuji decided to stop by mom's house. Judging from the surroundings, Shuji's mom lived quite poorly. The captain was surprised that this place belonged to Shujie's mom. The son, on the other hand, praises his mother's food. Jiang Weng, on the other hand, notes that the beer goes well with the appetizer. Leia is of the same opinion and asks for more. Leia likes cold drinks. Shujai asks her not to drink too much and to eat more. Jiang Weng asks the captain if he is happy that there is progress in the case. He was about to tell about the man with the scar. However, the captain interrupts him and asks Shu Ji how his injuries are. Shujai reports that he has self-healing ability, so he was fine. Leia was still happy to drink. Everyone tried to force Shujai to drink for some reason, but he refused. Shujai's mom reported that her son had been a good boy since childhood. Everyone sat and ate and enjoyed this good time. Suddenly, Jiang Weng asked the captain again if he knew the man with the scar. Leia and Shujie also tensed up. They were curious about the scarred man. However, the captain wasn't going to give up and decided that he would tell them if they outdrank him. Obviously, the captain didn't want to say anything about the man with the scar. After a while, Jiang Weng declared that the captain was just a monster. Leia still refused to give up. She asked Shujai to help them, but he refused again. At that time, even his mom had already decided to let Shuji have fun with his friends since it was the first time he brought someone home. Leia wanted Shujai to listen to his mom. Jiang Weng thought that auntie was so kind. The captain, on the other hand, couldn't think of much else anymore. However, Shujai said that he didn't want to do this. Besides, he didn't like the taste, and he also didn't want to lose control over himself. Therefore, he firmly and clearly stated that he would not do it. But he couldn't believe these words because a moment later, he was already having fun with his friends. After a while, Jiang Weng, Leia, and Shu Jie were already asleep sitting at the table. The joyful captain informed the boys and girl that they had lost. Shujai's mom only sighed, finding it all very funny. The captain informs them that they had to face the adult trickery as soon as possible. He even stated that he had to try really hard today to not lose. The captain enjoyed having fun with Jiang Weng, Leia, and Shu Jie. He even felt like they had always been together. A woman asks the captain if he ever had a family. The captain apologizes and states that he always says stupid things when he is in this state. He even decides to go for a walk, eating more than he had a headache. The woman reminds him that they have a restroom in their house, but the man decides to head outside anyway. Later on, the captain was nestled against some wall and decided it was a good time to flush his need. At the same moment, a man with glasses approached the captain from behind. The man immediately recognized the man as Ling Bo. Ling Bo was a lab guard, and he violated the rules because he impersonated an investigator. The man says that Ling Bo's lateness due to drunkenness led to the theft of organs from the lab during his shift. The man found out everything about Ling Bo. Ling Bo used his connections to win 7 days, forged an investigation authorization, and summoned 3 infected from Xiang Yu to look into the case. Wang Ai even wonders if Ling Bo took such a risk just to keep his job. He even wonders if Ling Bo really likes working as a security guard that much. Ling Bo only notes that this seems to be Wang Ai's way of trying to shift some of his mistakes and worries onto him. Wang Ai thinks that any fool can be a security guard. However, since Ling Bo was able to find information about him, it means Ling Bo definitely has skills. Wang Ai points out that the man saw his face but did not hide. So the man had a plan. So Ling Bo could have instructed a trusted person to pass the news about Wang Ai to the right person, and then Wang Ai wouldn't be able to kill him. Ling Bo also announced that he wouldn't dare to do such a thing. Wang Ai also noticed that the man wouldn't inform anyone, which meant he was waiting for something. Based on that, Wang Ai decided that the man was waiting for the man to come and offer his terms. Ling Bo really doesn't understand what the man in front of him is talking about. Wang Ai decides to guess what Ling Bo is up to. In his opinion, Wang Ai Ling Bo has been prepared from the beginning. If the trio of infected helped him find the monster's organs, then everything would end well for him. If the infected couldn't find the monster's organs, then Ling Bo would accuse them specifically of stealing the organs. In Wang Ai's opinion, no one would pay attention if there were a few less infected people, and Ling Bo himself would be a witness in the case. Wang Ai remarks that no matter how events unfolded, Ling Bo would be safe. Wang Ai absolutely did not understand why Ling Bo decided to go into security. After all, he definitely has talent. Wang Ai decides that Ling Bo has succeeded, and he gave himself the opportunity to keep his job. And not only keep his job, but he gave himself a chance for a promotion and a substantial bonus. To accomplish this, Wang Ai tells Ling Bo to kill everyone but Leia. Ling Bo smiles and without hesitation immediately agrees to the proposal. The captain returned to the house where he had left the infected he had taken to investigate. He hid his right hand behind his back, as if hiding something behind it. Jiang Wang, Leia, and Shujie were completely helpless against anyone and quietly continued to sleep. Captain Ling's face was covered by a shadow, and he loomed menacingly over the unsuspecting three infected. Ling Bo recalled how Shujie had tried to protect him and saved his life. At the same time, Wang Ai stood surrounded by hooded men like ninjas in front of the house. At Wang Ai's order, the local ninjas were already heading straight towards the house. Ling Bo was about to end the lives of these three infected to save himself, but at this moment, Jiang Wang opened his eyes. And following that, Shujie's mom entered the room. She brought some clothes for the captain that belonged to Shujie's father and thought that these clothes would be suitable for a man. The woman decided to take care of the captain's clothes as Shujie threw up on the captain's clothes. She asked the captain to change into those clothes. The second she did, she froze after seeing the not particularly pleasant sight the captain showed for her. Ling Bo also froze in anticipation as soon as he saw her. Seeing Shujie's mom with the clothes in her hands, he felt the shadow of the past catch up with him. He remembered a woman from his past who also cared for him. She had asked Ling Bo to take off the clothes to wash them since the clothes already stank. The captain quickly hid his weapon and pretended that nothing happened, while Shujie's mom didn't seem to have time to see anything much. The woman says that Shujie's father left them early, which is why Shujie never drank. Mom didn't think her son would feel so bad about it. She thought that sometimes it was good for children to act like a silly child. She even declares that their family could use a man. Ling Bo is too dumbfounded to hear such news. After all, what does it mean that a family needs a man? What is the woman standing in front of him implying? Ling Bo blushed at what he had heard, and if he had understood what the woman had said correctly. Ling Bo even imagined this picture of him and Shujie and his mom becoming one family. Shujie's mom is feeding him grapes. Shujie himself runs to the store for beer for his new father, and also takes care of his feet, so that the new father steams his feet well in a basin. Ling Bo liked the idea so much that he couldn't even hide his happy face, and the knife fell out of his hands. Meanwhile, Wang Ai commanded his ninjas to attack the house and finish off the rest. Ling Bo immediately reacted and yelled for the others to wake up and run away. In the same second, the ninjas broke into the house. However, Jiang Wen instantly reacted, rushed past the captain and pushed the intruder away. At that moment, he noticed that the attacker was not alone, so he wondered if there was another way out of the house. After that, Jiang Wen grabbed the sleeping Leia and the captain grabbed the sleeping Shujie. Ling Bo, while running, then noted that Jiang Wen was only pretending to be drunk. Jiang Wen did not hold back and confessed that he saw that the captain wanted to kill them. Jiang Wen has long suspected that something is wrong with the captain. He decides that he will settle the score with the captain later. Leia was still talking about cold beer even in her sleep. The guy was getting sick of it. They managed to get outside and tried to rouse Leia and Shujie, but they refused to wake up. The ninjas were too close and surrounding them. The captain thought they were finished. He even suggests that Jiang Wen should distract the attacking men, then the others would be able to escape. Ling Bo, as a man with no moral values, begins to exert psychological pressure on Jiang Wen. He points out that Jiang Wen definitely doesn't want his friends to be killed. Jiang Wen even calls the captain a rat for this. Ling Bo decides to propose a plan that they will hide in a dumpster and Jiang Wen will distract the attackers. While the ninjas are chasing Jiang Wen, they will try to escape. Plus, Ling Bo points out that without ballast in the form of them, Jiang Wen will have a better chance of escaping. Jiang Wen realizes that this plan makes sense, however he still felt cheated. The woman notices that the dumpster has a terrible stench and that she would rather die than climb into it. Then Ling Bo also pressures her, promising that in this option, Shujie will also die. The woman doesn't understand why they have to hide in the trash can specifically. Ling Bo points out that the smellier the place is, the more reluctant they will be to be found there. When they get inside the dumpster, Ling Bo remarks to let Jiang Wen know that the attackers will not kill Leia. Therefore, Jiang Wen can take advantage of this advantage. A moment later, the ninjas were already in that alley and calmly ran past the dumpster. Jiang Wen was still trying to wake up Leia, for he needed the girl's help. The guy wonders if the girl is sure that the attackers won't hurt her. Leia points out that the attackers are afraid of her, since everyone is afraid of her. Jiang Weng doesn't understand why this is happening and whether the girl is the daughter of some high-ranking official. The girl, on the other hand, is yelling about being an ace. Since the girl is so sure of this, Jiang Weng decides to take advantage of this and asks the girl not to get angry. He put Leia in a cart with 2 straw effigies and waited for the attackers to approach him. He then pushed the cart with Leia and the 2 straw scarecrows down the hill. Leia was simply delighted to see this. The attacking ninjas noticed the cart rolling towards them. After that, Jiang Weng finally managed to get rid of his pursuers. He noted that Leia and Shuji were now safe, but he didn't understand what he should do tomorrow. He realized that the scarred man would not give up so easily. Besides, he couldn't wait to deal with the cunning Ling Bo. There were only 2 days left of the 7 allotted. It would also take 1 day to get to the right place, and another day to find the person who would remove the collar from him. In theory, it could work out, and then he would be free of all monsters. At that moment, as if out of nowhere, a terrifying wind blew up that frightened even the birds. The guy was surprised, thinking that he was still being chased by ninjas. At the same moment, vines descended from the sky and entangled the heads of the ninjas who were nearby. Jiang Weng was surprised that an assassin appeared right there and came after the guy's head. Flowers bloomed on the ninjas' faces, and the guy finally realized that the monster captain was in front of him. The flower spirit reported that she had killed the people who were chasing the lord, and in the same second she stopped and noted that it was definitely not her lord in front of her. Jiang Weng recalls that he had ordered her to wait for his orders. He really wanted the monster to stop chasing him. The monster captain pointed out that all the other monsters had returned, and she had disobeyed her lord's order. After saying that, Jiang Weng tensed up and asked if the monster had any business with him. With a slight stutter, the flower spirit tells him that she had no right to disobey her lord's order. She had crossed the line and believes she deserves to die, but she couldn't take it anymore. She wanted to see her lord, but it was definitely not her lord in front of her. With a horrified face, the monster captain informs the guy that she saw the whole thing. What a wimp in front of her. All the time he was only thinking of escaping. Seeing all this, Jiang Weng thought that there's definitely some kind of crazy woman in front of him. The monster captain couldn't understand what was wrong, for she felt that the guy in front of her wasn't her lord. She knew that their lord was indomitable and that he was like a natural disaster. 10 years ago, when she first saw her lord, he had taken her soul. It was for her lord that she was here now. The flower spirit wished to see her lord as soon as possible. Jiang Weng's face was covered in cold sweat, for there was definitely some crazy woman in front of him. He tried to look inside himself and ask that inner lord to help him. After all, only the lord would help bring the girl to her senses. The monster captain continued to praise her lord. Her lord is the most powerful being. Flower spirit does not believe that the lord would act like a weakling. She won't let her beloved lord's name be dishonored, so the monster captain decides to just kill the guy. Meanwhile, one of the ninjas finds only Leia in the cart. He informs Wang Ai that they have apparently been tricked. He figures that the others have split up. The rest of the men have thrown in a search for all the wanted men to find them as quickly as possible. But here's the catch. Some of the people aren't making contact, so they've probably been killed. Wang Ai notices that his mercenaries are not ordinary people to be killed so easily. In his opinion, Ling Bo was too weak to do such a thing, and Shujie was also unlikely to be capable of such a thing. Then the only option left was Jiang Weng. The subordinate notes that this is where they lost contact with the others. He asks Wang Ai if it's worth it to go looking for them. But the scarred man remarks that if they can handle the 2 mercenaries, they can handle the others, so it's a waste to send anyone else. Watching Leia still asleep, the scarred man only remarks again that it is necessary to act more professionally. Leia herself was still dreaming of cold beer in her sleep, and she was also remembering her dog. I wonder how Jiang Weng will get away with it this time. The monster captain soared upwards in fury. She wasn't going to allow some lowlife to defame her lord's name. Jiang Weng wasn't very happy about this news, for he was facing a manipulative monster. The monster captain had a plant-based ability. The flower spirit attacked the guy with its leaves. It wasn't just leaves, it was as if each leaf had turned into a knife. One leaf still managed to hit the guy, and in the same second, a giant flower grew on the guy. After a leaf wounded an opponent, a flower would immediately begin to grow on the opponent. However, it wasn't a simple flower. The roots of the flower went deep inside and sucked the energy out of Jiang Weng. The guy didn't wait for the flower to completely destroy him, so he ripped the flower out of his left hand. The boy ran under the monster's attacks. He was in pain. Jiang Weng realized that it was too dangerous to fight the flower spirit alone and needed to escape from the battlefield. Such an idea didn't please the monster captain, and she was even more annoyed that the Lord was running away again. After quickly thinking about the situation, Jiang Weng came to the conclusion that running away was definitely not an option. After all, even if he succeeded in removing the collar, this crazy girl would chase him for eternity. Therefore, it was necessary to solve the problem. He is determined to get rid of the monster captain once and for all. He even asks the monster that is imprisoned in him to borrow the power. The guy's head immediately turned into a dog face. He decided to destroy the monster captain with one punch right in the heart. However, this transformation made the flower spirit even more angry, because now she was even more convinced that the person in front of her was not her lord. It once again attacked Jiang Weng with its leaves that were as sharp as knives. In the same instant, many giant flowers formed on Jiang Weng's body. Turning into a dog made Jiang Weng even more furious. He wasn't going to give up, but was going to survive, and asked the monster captain to continue his pathetic attacks. In fact, he still had his mind, and he noted that he wouldn't be able to withstand such injuries from the attacks for long. Flower Spirit even cried, seeing how weak her lord looked. She didn't understand why he was in such a weak state. She intended to send the lowlife who pretended to be her lord to hell. Jiang Weng in his dog form was also unwilling to relent and intended to kill the monster captain. Suddenly, another figure intervened in their battle that there was no way they could ignore. Leia appeared in the air with her giant scythe in her hands. She jumped down with lightning speed and cut all the vines-like entanglements that came from the flower spirit. Leia stabbed the scythe into the ground with fury, and the ground beneath her feet shattered. Jiang Weng was shocked. He couldn't be completely sure that Leia had appeared in front of him. It was not surprising, since Leia's eyeballs were colored black, and a horn grew on the right side of the girl's forehead. Leia is a Shinigami. Hidden number 0002. Infection level undisclosed. Description undisclosed. Jiang Weng still couldn't understand what had happened to Leia. Leia did not answer the questions, but instead swung her slash attacking Jiang Weng. The dog barely managed to duck from this attack, which saved his life, as all the trees around him that were hit by the scythe were easily chopped off by the scythe, leaving only stumps. Jiang Weng was startled when he saw such events and such a side of Leia in front of him. He immediately realized that it looked like Leia was out of control and was no longer in control of herself. Leia kept repeating over and over again that she needed to kill someone. While Leia was unconscious, Wang Ai asked the girl if she had forgotten why she was in this place. He reminds the girl that she is the spawn of the devil. Wang Ai points out that the only way for the girl to atone for her sins is to keep killing. He also why that the girl only has a life of constant killing and that she can only then get revenge. Leia couldn't contain all of this and cried constantly, the tears unable to stop. Wang Ai notes that this is an order, and after that calls the right words. Dawn, fire. Good morning, Daddy. The order was to destroy the dog. After that, Leia awakened, having lost her consciousness. The only thing that moved her was the lust to kill. Such audacity the monster captain could not tolerate, so she entangled Leia and her giant scythe with her liana hair. Flower Spirit is incredibly pissed off that some damn thing dared to touch her lord. Jiang Weng doesn't understand why the monster captain decided to help him. Flower Spirit notes that if the guy isn't her lord, she'll kill him herself. Jiang Weng even thinks that there is definitely something wrong with the girl's head. In order for Jiang Weng to keep her out of the way in battle, Flower Spirit tossed him aside with her liana hair. A giant flower instantly grew on the dog. The monster captain decided to deal with the pink-haired girl first and then deal with Jiang Weng. Leia, in her frenzied and uncontrollable state, did not fight according to the monster captain's rules and immediately pointed her giant scythe towards the dog. With one sweep of her giant scythe, Leia shattered a giant patch of land, causing incredible shaking and destruction all around. Wang Ai covered his body using his jellyfish armor. He was faced with an unexpected sight, as he did not expect to see a ghostly monster in this place. However, this was all to his advantage, as the more chaos, the better for him. Dispelling the jellyfish armor, Wang Ai decided to leave the battlefield and leave everything to Leia. He was sure that she would not stop until she had carried out her order. Leia couldn't control herself in such a state, and she kept continuing her attempts to chop Jiang Weng. The flower spirit couldn't let that happen, so she prevented Leia from reaching the guy with her scythe in every possible way. Jiang Weng realized that his strength was not enough to keep the situation under control. What bothered him the most was Leia, who was only getting stronger. He delved inside his subconscious and decided to ask for help from the monster inside him. Jiang Weng hoped that the monster would be able to hear him. He noted that if the true Lord didn't help him in this situation, something irreparable might happen. Leia had finally managed to get to the dog and was about to chop him up, and Flower Spirit was desperately trying to prevent that from happening, even though she realized that she wouldn't make it this time. All of this had gotten to the point where Jiang Weng was fed up. He tells the monster not to be a pain in the arse and get lost. At these insults, the Lord seemed to show signs of life. He could not bear such insults. Jiang Weng notes that Lord has too much pride, and that when the monster's power is weakened, the monster falls into decline. Jiang Weng recalls that Lord had been hiding in his lair all day, picturing deep thoughts. Jiang Weng could not accept that he was so weak and cowardly. He even told the monster to piss off. The monster captain had miraculously managed to cover her Lord. However, the blow she took from Leia was monstrous. Jiang Weng was finally tired. Since the Lord wasn't responding, then it was over. These were two people's lives, and he didn't understand why one person should take everything. Leia took advantage of the moment and rushed towards Jiang Weng, who stood helplessly and had no intention of dodging. The monster inside the guy went wild when he saw this moment. However, at this moment, Leia was still able to catch up with the guy with her slash, who flew aside from such a blow. The monster captain desperately ordered that the vile maiden dare not touch the Lord. She entangled the pink-haired girl with her hair vines in a rage. After that, Flower Spirit used her favorite attack, and Leia's entire body was covered in giant flowers. Jiang Weng was still alive, but he was in incredible pain. He even noticed that his sternum was broken. Jiang Weng also noticed that the blow was no longer felt, and then he noticed that he had turned into a dog again. Inside his subconscious mind, he saw that the monster inside him had finally appeared. Lord was furious, for how dare some inferior creature threaten him? Jiang Weng asks Lord not to be angry, as time was not on their side, and he was in a hurry. He asks Lord to decide what to do after this whole situation is over. Jiang Weng wants to solve the current situation first, so he asks Lord to listen to his plan. Flower Spirit was incredibly excited. Finally, the pink-haired deviless was in her power, and she was able to overpower her. Suddenly, the monster captain tensed up from what she felt. In his subconscious, Jiang Wen tried to ask the Lord if he could unleash all of his power at once and how long it could be used. The monster is angry again, though it seems to be his usual state. Jiang Weng notes that he knows Lord will take some time to do this, so he didn't want to pressure Lord and apologized to him. The guy notes that he and Lord now share the same fate, so he didn't intend to hurt Lord. Jiang Weng asks to take everything as an investment. He promises Lord that if his plan is carried out, they can get triple the benefits. In an instant, all of the vine's hairs that were entangling Leia, as well as the giant flowers, were destroyed, which even frightened the flower spirit. Her surprise was justified, as Leia had gotten even stronger and had giant wings on the back of her industry. The monster captain was instantly defeated after such a blow. Leia not only released her wings, but the monster captain felt as if Leia's power had greatly increased. It was as if she had become a titan, and the flower spirit had become like an insect to her. The monster captain bit her lower lip in surprise. She realized that she wouldn't be able to resist against such a gigantic devil. Meanwhile, Lord decides to believe the guy only once. He notes that if anything goes wrong, Jiang Weng will be cursed. Jiang Weng thanks Lord, and his body immediately gains previously unseen power. An unimaginable power poured into him. He increased in size, and red marks appeared on his body. The monster captain only looks annoyed at the attack that comes from the devil in her direction. She realizes that she doesn't stand a chance. However, at this moment, Jiang Weng bursts into the battlefield and knocks Leia down, causing him to save the flower spirit. The monster captain couldn't believe what happened at that moment. As soon as she saw the face of the one who saved her, she was incredibly surprised. Immediately after that, tears appeared in her eyes, so happy was she to see her lord. Jiang Weng hugged Leia and began to squeeze her, preventing her from attacking. Flower Spirit couldn't hide her tears. They kept pouring out of her eyes. The monster captain was so happy that her lord had finally returned. Leia, on the other hand, had yet to fulfill her order and continued her attempts to end the giant dog's life. Jiang Weng advised the girl not to try to break free, even though the guy realized that he wouldn't be able to restrain the devil for long. The Lord reports that he only has 5% of his reserves left, so the guy only has 20 seconds. Jiang Weng calls out to Hanabi. The girl is ecstatic. Her face even turned red because Lord finally called her by her name. Leia continued to break free from Jiang Weng's embrace. Jiang Weng informs Hanabi that he will restrain the devil and the girl should use her flowers to suck all the energy out of the devil. Hanabi worries that because of this, she might hurt her lord with her attack and the latter might die. However, Jiang Weng informs her that they don't have much time. Leia was creepily noisy even in this state and kept breaking out of the guy's embrace. Since the first plan didn't work, Jiang Weng uses a terrifying aura and informs that Hanabi's claims are too ridiculous since he is her lord, and she won't be able to kill him. Feeling the aura of her lord, the girl was immediately frightened. A moment later, she had already begun to carry out her lord's orders. Hanabi began to entangle her lord and the devil with her liana hair. Leia kept screaming about killing the giant dog. Hanabi decided that she would do whatever it takes to fulfill her lord's orders, so she decides to go all out with what strength she has left. Jiang Weng tries to reach Leia's mind. He asks that the girl hear him and remember that he is Jiang Weng. He promises that he will not hurt the girl. Jiang Weng asks for Leia to remember the beautiful moments they spent together. However, instead of coming to her senses, Leia bites the dog's nose. Jiang Weng complains that he is in pain and tells Leia to let him go. He's even angry, since he's the one who's the dog here and should be acting like this, not Leia. Jiang Weng notices that Leia is more like a dog now. Hanabi tries her best to follow her lord's orders. Jiang Weng calls the girl a crazy girl who laughs and as if she wants to die together. Jiang Weng removes the dog form and headbutts Leia in the forehead, telling her to wake up. The girl seems to start feeling something after that blow to her forehead and Hanabi's actions. Hanabi was in pain. She was crying, but she had to do her lord's bidding, plus he called her by name. Finally, from the place where the entangled giant dog and the devil were located, a giant flower bloomed out of the place and shot up into the sky. Leia began to regain consciousness and the color of her eyeball on her left eye turned white. Jiang Weng and Hanabi also appeared to be completely exhausted. As soon as it was over, Jiang Weng, Hanabi, and Leia collapsed to the ground after losing all their strength. In the morning of the same day, Shujie opened his eyes. He was lying on his bed and had a terrible headache. Next to Shujie was his mom, who asked him to wake up. Shujie was surprised to see his mom in Xiangyu. Also, a nurse entered his room. The nurse smilingly pointed out that there was nothing special about Shujie's case, and all he needed today was to drink lots of water. Shujie finally remembered that they had fun last night, and that was why he had such a condition. However, he absolutely could not remember what happened next. His mum even let out a heavy exhale when she heard her son's words. It took his mum some time to tell what had happened last night. He was surprised that so much had happened after he had passed out. Mum says that the specific details of the battle that happened last night were still being investigated. She reports that when the Xiangyu people arrived, the monsters were gone. Mum also notes that Leia woke up shortly afterward and she was fine. Shujie was surprised that the monsters appeared and disappeared so suddenly. He even thought that Wang Ai had caused the monsters. He wondered if they were able to catch Wang Ai. To this question, his mum suddenly stated that Wang Ai was dead. Shujie was greatly surprised to hear such an answer. Mum completes the story by saying that they stayed in the trash can until almost 4 o'clock in the morning. After making sure that it was already safe, they immediately went to Xiangyu. After that, Ling Bo immediately reported the incident. He said that he would report to his superiors that the suspect in the missing organ case was Wang Ai, the secretary of the organization department. Ling Bo was pleased that the guards arrived on time and asked to be taken to Commander Chu Xian. He said he told them now that Wang Ai was the organizer in the organ theft case from the lab and that he might have important people behind him. Ling Bo says that he has a clear chain of evidence and witnesses. With a little investigation, he managed to find the cancer hidden inside Jiang Yu. However, this information did not please the military much. It turned out that Wang Ai was dead. The military officer also said that Wang Ai had died heroically in a sudden battle last night. Ling Bo was shocked by what he heard. He never thought that the matter would take such a turn. The military took Ling Bo with them. They found out that he forged the authorization and took the infected, in addition to pretending to be an investigator, and made an investigation team. Based on all the violations, the supervisor ordered them to take Ling Bo to the detention center. Ling Bo tried to justify himself. He claimed that Wang Ai could not have died. Ling Bo assumes that since Wang Ai knew someone survived, he faked his death to get away with it. He even demands to be shown the body since he doesn't believe Wang Ai is dead. He kept asking over and over again to be shown Wang Ai's body. Being one of the witnesses, Xu Jie's mom was able to see Wang Ai's body. In her opinion, the body was in such a state that it was impossible to fake his death like that. After that, Ling Bo was placed in a detention center. Mom confesses that everything has been revealed and Ling Bo's real identity is the lab guard. The identity of the head of the investigation team turned out to be fake. Xu Jie is surprised to learn Ling Bo's true identity, as well as the large number of events that took place while he was asleep. Xu Jie wonders from his mother where Jiang Weng has gone since he hasn't seen him yet and nothing has been said about him. He even thought that there is a medical checkup going on right now and that's why the guy is gone. Mom is saddened by her son's questions. She sadly states that Jiang Weng is also dead. At this point, the doctors note that the kobold Jiang Weng, number 77763, lacks signs of any life activity. Doctors recorded that the infected Jiang Wen died in a fight with the monster on the Zioxia Highway in Zioxia City. The time of death was 1 hour and 35 minutes at night. After that, the doctors confirmed everything again. Only after all the tests and confirmations, the doctors removed the collar from Jiang Weng. After the doctors removed the collar from Jiang Weng, then they left the morgue. However, Jiang Weng's body was smiling suspiciously after the doctors left, and the collar was removed, as if everything had gone according to plan. He was glad, as the battle of pretending to be dead had succeeded. Being able to temporarily control his vitals was an incredibly useful ability. Diving into his subconscious, Jiang Weng finds the Lord on the throne and informs him that they had succeeded in pulling off the plan. He came to report to the Lord that everything had worked out just as he had planned. The monster was still chained up and didn't say anything. Jiang Weng decided to tell everything himself. Just as he had said earlier, with the kind of power the Lord had given them, they were able to gain at least threefold benefits. The first thing they were able to do was to calm the out-of-control Leia. He estimated that an attack of this level would not have fatally damaged Leia. Secondly, they were able to stop the flower spirit's attacks. This girl was filled with mad love for the Lord, and after Jiang Weng did not show the Lord's proper power, then she became overwhelmed with hatred for him. The small display of power made Hanabi subdue once again, and fell to her knees in front of her Lord. After the battle with the devil, Jiang Weng asked Hanabi if she still had the strength to move. He ordered her to leave immediately, as Xiang Yu's troops were expected to arrive at the battle site soon. Her eyes were filled with happiness, as the Lord was taking care of her. Thus, not only did they get rid of the flower spirit's tracking, but they also gained an additional workhorse. Thirdly, the collars are removed from the dead infected people. The collar was the biggest obstacle to their freedom, so he tried to remove it. Although he had learned earlier that there was a master in Xiaoguang City who could remove the collar, but he didn't know what kind of problems he might encounter once he got there. The probability of success in this attempt with the master was not more than 50%. Therefore, when Jiang Weng faced two powerful enemies, Leia and Hanabi, the idea of pretending to be dead occurred to him. It seemed logical to him to die in Leia's battle with a ghost-level monster, and since the Lord can control vitals, this plan was pretty simple. The collar was a dangerous bomb used to monitor and destroy rebellious infected. When the infected dies, it is mandatory that the collar be removed. After listening to Jiang Weng's plan, the Lord did not say anything to this effect. Jiang Weng was incredibly happy, as now all the obstacles were gone. According to Jiang Weng's plan, they needed to wait a little longer for their existence to be forgotten. After that, they would need to slip away, and then freedom would be waiting for them. Jiang Weng inquires from Lord about minor details. He is interested in confirming his assumption that in order to unleash his power, he needs to defeat other monsters and absorb their cores. He notes that it's quite difficult to match strength with his wisdom. Jiang Weng promises Lord that after they manage to escape, then he will help Lord recover his strength. Since they have some time, Jiang Weng decides to ask Lord for information. When he first went inside his subconscious mind, he saw 7 stone statues, so he was curious who these statues were. However, the Lord didn't answer anything to this question. The story is just beginning to wind down. What dark past is Leia hiding besides being the spawn of the devil? How will Jiang Weng manage to escape undetected? What new power will Jiang Weng gain after the unexpected gift? What happened to Wang Ai, and what object did he use to fake his death as if he were Sosuke Aizen? Jiang Weng remembered that after yesterday's fight with Leia, something else interesting happened. Right after the fight, he asked Hanabi if she still had the strength to move. Finding that Hanabi could still move, he told her to run away immediately. As the Shangyu army was about to arrive at the battle site, Hanabi was so impressed that the Lord cared for her so much, even after she behaved rudely to him. Hanabi didn't understand how to deal with her current situation and how she should contact the Lord next time. Suddenly, a strange thought occurred to her. She pulled something out and held it out to the guy, wondering if he could take the item. Looking at the item, Jiang Weng absolutely could not understand what she was holding out to him. Hanabi explained that she had given him a seed. It was one of her abilities. All the guy had to do was to put some energy into the seed, and it would blossom. Whenever Jiang Weng wanted to talk to Hanabi, all he had to do was talk to the flower given to him, and Hanabi would hear everything through it at any time. Jiang Weng was slightly surprised and even pleased, because it was as if he had received a private line of communication that could not be tapped by others in any way. The guy wanted to ask the Lord for details about the gift Hanabi had left him. The moment the lad touched the seed, he felt some special movement from within. He realized that this strange attraction was not coming from Lord, then perhaps the strange attraction was from the stone statues. Lord closed his eyes as if confirming the guy's words, realizing that there was nothing else he could hide. Then the Lord asked if he meant the stone statues that were located in the hall. Looking around, the guy was still impressed with the given throne room and stone statues, and then confirmed that he was talking about those stone statues. The Lord didn't deny it, admitting that all the stone statues the guy could see were his subordinates. They helped him expand his territory and achieve great military successes. All of this lasted until the war that happened 10 years ago. The Lord confirmed that his subordinates were still alive. However, his subordinates could no longer use the energy that Lord had absorbed. He absorbed them while they were dying, and then someone sealed them with him. In order to revive his subordinates, one would need to find 7 specific anchors that had nothing to do with the power. Jiang Weng thought about what he had heard, but soon noted that since the stone statues showed a response to the seed he had received, then the seed could serve as that anchor. Suddenly, Jiang Weng noticed one of the statues that seemed to be reaching out to him. He couldn't take his eyes off it. Looking at the stone statue's outstretched hands, a thought came to his mind. He immediately took out the seed that Hanabi had given him. He then infused some spiritual energy into it and then placed the resulting flower directly into the stone statue's outstretched hands. At the same moment, a bright light began to emanate from the stone statue. The lad was shocked to see that such was the reaction of the stone statue to the seed received from Hanabi. Lord was also watching the events with interest. The light from the stone statue began to emanate in different directions more and more, and the stone statue began to crack. As soon as the statue cracked, a little girl who looked like Paimon, though more like Shia Poof from Hunter x Hunter, flew out of it. Official number YC1314, code name Golden Crow. Ability, an elf with a certain ability to control fire. The elf's speed is faster than a spark. Combined with her cloning ability, consciousness is shared between clones. The elf is an absolute expert tracker. Level, Ghost. Upon her appearance, Golden Crow immediately said hello to the boss. The Lord was surprised that Golden Crow was still able to appear in front of him. Flying up to the guy on her wings, Golden Crow explained that when she was still human, she was very fond of flowers, so this little obsession was the key to her resurrection. She noted that boss number 2 of the unholy fighters had received her signal. Hearing this treatment and noticing how cute the girl was, the guy asked her to call him Jiang Weng. Golden Crow was incredibly excited. She was so happy since she had been imprisoned in a stone statue for 10 years. She immediately decided to summon her sisters, although they were obviously clones. They all took turns to introduce themselves. Golden Crow number 1, Yoshi. Golden Crow number 2, Darcy. Golden Crow number 3, Touch the West. Golden Crow was so happy that she was finally free from her shackles, so she flew at full speed throughout the throne room. Jiang Weng was thrilled to see for the first time a little elf that could split into two. He wondered if other stone statues had such interesting abilities. Now he was finally able to feel great and was even able to smile. Jiang Weng calculated that the Lord only had 15% strength right now. He thought that 30% strength was a small goal. The guy wanted to reach this goal within 3 months, and then try to restore Lord's peak strength within half a year. Then they needed to find a way to unlock the remaining stone statues one by one, thinking that a 3-year plan and a 5-year policy would work perfectly, because they should improve both inside and outside and develop together. The mighty Lord positively appreciated the guy's efforts and the plan he proposed. Jiang Weng realized that this kind of big cake painting trick was the boss's real legacy from his past life. The Lord looked powerful and overbearing, but was very susceptible to this trick. Soon there was the sound of running feet. It was Xu Jie running to take a look at his friend's body. However, the only thing he found in the operating room was Leia, who was incredibly upset and sitting in the corner of the operating room. Hearing someone enter the operating room, Leia looked up and you could see how incredibly upset she was and had tears in her eyes. Seeing the guy, she burst into tears like a little girl. She was sorry that the dog was dead. She was sorry that she had lost control again and killed the dog. Xu Jie was shocked to find Leia like this, trying to realize that his friend was gone. Xu Jie asked the doctor to let them just take one last look at Jiang Weng. After all, he was their good friend. Leia also started begging the doctor to look at the guy's body. Eventually the doctor gave in, informing the guy and the girl that they only had 10 minutes to say goodbye to Jiang Weng. After entering the room where Jiang Weng was, the friends began to walk towards him with heavy footsteps. As soon as Xu Jie saw his friend lying there, tears started to appear in his eyes at the same moment. Leia immediately burst into tears as she continued to blame herself for killing him. Jiang Weng could observe everything that was happening as if from the outside, looking at the distraught new friends. As he watched his friends saddened and crying, he noted inside himself that Leia had not killed him. The guy knew that if he died like that, Leia would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Golden Crow noticed that the guy was hesitating and that he might wish he could wake up right now and comfort Leia. However, clutching his head with his hands, he didn't understand why he was even thinking about it. After all, Leia has such a playful nature that she forgets everything after only 3 days. So compared to that, of course his freedom was more important. Besides, he had only known his new friends for 1 week. Nevertheless, he continued to watch his crying friends from the sidelines. Golden Crow called for Lord's help already, noting that the guy was hesitating, and after all, if the guy woke up now, the whole plan would fail. Lord greeted the guy again. However, the guy once again abruptly sat down on the bed from a lying position. Leia, Xu Jie, and even the doctors were all in complete shock after seeing this. Jiang Weng laughingly announced that he had slept for too long and that he had a dream about how he died. He even greeted Leia and Xu Jie. The guy actually showed that he was willing to sacrifice his personal freedom for his friends, ruining the whole original plan. The doctors and everyone else started calling the guy a quack. Their cries were so loud that they even scared a nurse walking down the hallway past the room. Seeing Leia crying, Jiang Weng asked her why she was crying. He pointed out that he wasn't dead and even offered to hug the girl if that was what she wanted. Leia turned her back to the guy and started to run away. All these actions caused Xu Jie to yell at the doctors and point at the guy. Jiang Weng realized that girls were always difficult to deal with. However, at this moment, the Lord became furious with his actions, because he had thwarted their successful plan. Golden Crow pointed the guy at the Lord, noting that they had a more serious problem here. Jiang Weng immediately put his hands up, indicating with a gesture that he was giving up. He asked the Lord not to get angry and to listen to him first. The guy realized that such opportunities that they still had before he came to his senses and stood up were not given so easily. Jiang Weng began to convince Lord that he was right. He pointed out that a hero like Lord, who was so famous and had the loyalty of his subordinates, couldn't upset a girl. Besides, the guy promised to find another way to escape. Golden Crow immediately noticed that Jiang Weng's boss was very gentle with the girls. The Lord was enraged. He declared that he would scare the guy to death. As a result, the second escape plan was automatically cancelled, so Jiang Weng failed. Nevertheless, the guy didn't despair, noting that they didn't need to worry now. Now that Hanabi was outside and Golden Crow was inside, it was quite easy for them to escape. The lad decided that compared to walking alone, perhaps now the Lord could have more freedom. Meanwhile, in the organizational division, one of the military arrived to report the situation to the superior. The subordinate showed the chief the photos of Jiang Wen and Xu Jie, and then he reported that with the exception of Leia, these two were involved in the chain of events of last night. The boss stared intently at the photo of Jiang Weng that he held in his hands while thinking about something. The guy had foiled his escape plan so easily because of his new friends that it might have undermined his newly established trusting relationship with the Lord. Jiang Weng managed to attract unwanted attention from his superior after the incident. What will be Jiang Weng's next plan to escape or continue his investigation to find the Zero infected? Meanwhile, in the northern district of Zioxi, which was far to the north on the map of Zioxi City, a man was asking the people present if they knew what the most profitable business in the world was, and that it is the so-called double profit business. You have to take orders, get commissions from your employer, hunt monsters and sell them on the market to make more money. The man with the mustache noted that Brother Kai had gotten them interested in taking on such an interesting business. The Black Hunter is an unofficial, illegal monster hunter who takes hunting commissions and participates in the underground trade of monster organs. The group is made up of a wide variety of people, including normal people armed with unconventional weapons, as well as infected people who are not officially registered. Kai asked the others to stay focused, as this is still a business where you have to have eyes even in the back of your head. He asked the others to always be vigilant, never overestimate themselves, and never underestimate the monsters so that the people on the team could live and spend the money they earned. Someone in the group panicked, wondering if they would meet the terrifying monsters on this sortie. The man with the mustache asked the others not to worry, for Kai was famous for his caution. He had been in more battles with monsters, more than the others had seen the women in their lives. 10 years ago, there was a battle of 4 monsters. According to the man with the mustache, Kai participated in that monster battle personally. The girl was surprised because the monster war is the same disaster that almost destroyed the entire Jiangsu and Zhejiang region. All 4 of them are demonic beast-level monsters. She was curious about the names of the other monsters, as she only knew Huodu's name. Also, she had heard that 3 of the 4 monsters eventually died. She wondered how many of them Kai had personally killed. However, Kai informed her that he was not in charge of this confrontation with the monsters, but merely joined the fight. He then told the others to shut up and keep their weapons ready. Suddenly, they noticed the area around them was covered in fog. Kai immediately noticed that heavy fog was not the norm at this time of year, which meant that a monster might be waiting for them. At the same moment, some sort of melody came from the depths of the fog. Kai was annoyed as he couldn't figure out where the singing was coming from. He immediately realized that there was something wrong with the song, so he told the others to be ready for battle. Suddenly, some ugly monsters approached him out of the mist. Kai reacted instantly, destroying the monsters by cutting off their heads. However, at the same instant, he discovered that under the influence of the fog, he had just destroyed his entire team. Instantly, green liquid spurted out of his eyes, mouth, and nose. He immediately fell to the ground, realizing that he had fallen into an illusion. He realized that the monster was able to create an illusion with the help of the mist. In the distance, he saw someone's silhouettes in the fog that were rapidly approaching him. Looking at the silhouettes in the fog that were approaching him, Kai recognized them. He remembered that he had seen them before. He had seen them 10 years ago, during the battle with the monsters, when he had cowardly hid, unable to do anything. One of those legendary four monsters, Ju Ming, appeared in front of him. Meanwhile, it was reported elsewhere that monster activity has been unusually frequent recently. Zioxi City, October, after monster organ theft. Excerpt from the abnormal event report: blue, general level, beast level; yellow, greater level, monster level; red, basic level, ghost level; yellow, danger level for Zone 3, preliminarily classified as an extremely dangerous event. One of the military was requesting an increase in danger level, because a re-evaluation of the threat was needed. The military had already lost over 30 men, so they asked for support to be sent immediately. The command received their message for help and sent 3 more troops to Zone 3. It was also necessary to send information related to monsters and prepare for the ghost-level plan. Jiang Weng used his newfound strength to easily deal with the monster that appeared in front of him. Jiang Weng was a little surprised that the boss had absorbed the monster core of a barely ghost-level monster, and the boss's strength had recovered to 18%. This month, he had diligently used every opportunity to absorb monster energy, but his strength had only increased by 3%, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to make a qualitative leap. He realized that in order to make a sharp jump in progress, he needed to destroy a large monster. Golden Crow at this moment informed the guy that reinforcements had arrived at the military. Jiang Weng instantly rushed out to avoid being seen by the military. He wished to keep a low profile as much as possible and quietly evolved to absolutely not attract any attention. When Jiang Wen escaped from the monster killing scene, the support troops arrived in Area 3. However, they were greatly surprised to see what was happening. They reported with incredible excitement that all the monsters in Zone 3 had been destroyed. The monsters were killed by an unknown person, which surprised the operation commanders very much. They had absolutely no idea who could have done something like this. Meanwhile, in Immortal Juvai, one of the military told the infected to join the battle. Carrying the injured people away on stretchers, the military complained that there had been too many monster incidents recently. The military conducted a tally, stopping at the number 24. He noted that many infected people had died. The man concluded that if this continued, Zioxi City would be doomed. One of the military men asked the other why there was so much going on lately. He also heard one interesting rumor that made a lot of noise. He had heard that a monster had organized the infiltration of spies into Xiangyu. Jiang Weng heard the conversation of the military, was surprised to hear about the spy. He couldn't understand if he had really been exposed and how it could even happen. Suddenly he saw the seed in his hand begin to blossom into a beautiful flower. He was slightly surprised, for Hanabi had decided to contact him herself for the first time in a long time. Tears formed in her eyes, and her face turned red as she informed her Lord Huodu that she had decided to contact him. She also stated that she was incredibly nervous, as she had been preparing to talk to her lord for a whole month. She was so nervous that she even sat down to make notes in her diary. She wrote in her journal that today was November 2nd, and that it was sunny today. Today was the first time she communicated with Lord Huodu using her colors. She was so happy, and assured herself that she would be happy forever. She also added a note in her diary to make sure that she would remember this moment forever. Jiang Weng irritatedly told the girl that now was not the time to write the diary. After all, if it was discovered, there would be very unpleasant consequences. Hanabi apologized to her lord for her act, believing that she deserved to die. She finally cut to the chase and decided to explain the reason why she had contacted her lord immediately. She stated that she shouldn't have bothered the lord, but she needed to say something important since today was her opportunity. Hanabi suddenly informed he that Lord Ju Ming was in Zioxi City. Ju Ming, meanwhile, easily dealt with a lot of stupid people. Upon hearing the news of Ju Ming's arrival in Zioxi City, Lord Huodu became enraged. She said that there had been rumors that there were spies in Xiangyu, and it turns out that Lord Ju Ming had ordered all these rumors to be started. Hanabi noted that it seems that Lord Ju Ming is somewhat displeased with the fact that Lord Huodu's mission to find the Zero infestation has not made any progress. Hanabi was furious, not understanding why Lord Ju Ming should be displeased. She was displeased, recalling that Lord Huodu had suppressed Lord Ju Ming all these years. And now Lord Juming dared to tell Lord Huodu what to do. She even wanted to kill Lord Juming. However, with tears in her eyes, she realized that she could not defeat him, as Lord Huodu's other supporters were powerless, so she could only protest. For her powerlessness, she kept apologizing to Lord Huodu over and over again. Eventually, Hanabi confessed that Lord Juming had asked her to give Lord Huodu a new mission. Lord Juming had assigned the task of killing Chu Xian, a high-ranking Xianju officer. Jiang Weng was a bit puzzled by such a task. Hanabi explained that Lord Juming had informed him that this task should be easier than finding a zero infected with Lord Huodu's current abilities. Lord Juming clearly indicated that his requirement should be fulfilled within 2 days. If his demand was not met within the specified time frame, or if Lord Huodu refused, then Lord Juming would reveal Lord Huodu's identity as a spy. Jiang Weng was incredibly surprised that someone from outside could reveal to the military the identity of a spy. He began to ponder over the information he received from Hanabi. It was necessary to kill a high-ranking officer in 2 days. Even if he is a high-ranking officer, it can't be that simple. Even if he succeeds in killing Chu Xian, he will not be able to leave unharmed afterward. If he doesn't kill Chu Xian, then his identity will be revealed and he will die. Whatever choice he made, he realized that Lord Juming was determined to deceive him. Moreover, he feared that Lord Juming might have other evil intentions. In addition, the problem was serious because Juming was the same level as Lord Huodu. Around the guy, the military was already abuzz with rumors of spy monsters appearing in Xiangyu. They couldn't wait to find out the information about which infected person had further turned into a monster. They were now more aware that if the rumors were true, it was no wonder that so much had happened recently. The military officer told all infected people to undergo a medical examination immediately. He also stated that those with abnormal levels of infection would be sent to an isolation center immediately. Xu Jie asked the military man what all this inspection was for and whether the military suspected that the mutation of the infected people was out of control. He also began to complain that the battle had just ended. Everyone was very tired, and many people were seriously injured since the battle had been so tiring. Other infected people also began to protest the military's decision. They were outraged that the military told them to fight monsters, but doubted them. The infected one by one joined the protest against the military and the new medical examination at this moment. The infected people were incredibly angry. They didn't understand why they were being treated like prisoners or captives. Although they were infected people, they were also human beings first and foremost. Besides, they were the ones who were actually the ones protecting Zioxi City. However, the military men put their shields forward. One of the military men told all the infected people to shut up immediately. One by one, the infected people began to speak out, unwilling to be silenced. Someone shouted about how he was just an infected person and not a monster. The old man couldn't wait to go home. Someone was also shouting about how infected people were not monsters. Jiang Weng watched the infected people protest from the sidelines, perplexed at how things had come to this. Xu Jie reminded the military that it was not appropriate to force them to undergo another medical examination now. After all, everyone needs treatment and comfort first. However, the military man was unwilling to listen to the nonsense Xu Jie was telling him, so he punched Xu Jie in the face with his fist, telling Xu Jie to shut up. Jiang Weng was a little worried about his friend. Xu Jie immediately realized that because his blood got on the military man, then due to the resulting situation of public outrage, his ability would trigger and the conflict would definitely escalate. At this very moment, the military man who had previously hit Xu Jie was struck by lightning as if struck by lightning. Just as Xu Jie had predicted, the situation escalated. The military man said that they had a riot, so he told the soldiers not to be afraid to attack the infected people. The infected people did not stand silently waiting to be beaten with clubs. They lashed out violently at the military. Xu Jie, being in the crowd, continued for everyone not to be so impulsive. The crowd of people during the crush carried Jiang Weng in the other direction from his friend. The guy quickly considered the situation. Right now, everything was in chaos, with internal and external problems. He came to the conclusion that the ultimate goal of Juming's arrival in Zioxi City must be related to the destruction of Xiangyu, the central part of Zioxi City. Frequent monster actions and conflicts among humans. So many bad events happened one after another that the guy kept feeling that something was wrong. He also realized that when characters like Ju Ming intervened, trouble would start coming one after another. Suddenly, the man standing on the balcony of the second floor of the building and with the runes on his left hand used the Chapel of Rest ability. Suddenly, the entire street area, where the infected people and military personnel were located, was illuminated with a bright light. All the people instantly froze in one place, as if their movements were constrained by something. Jiang Weng, despite his strength, also noticed that he couldn't move. Everyone else around him also stopped. He stood there for 5 seconds, unable to move. After 5 seconds, he finally found that he could barely move. He couldn't understand what kind of abnormal weapon had been used. Jiang Weng searched with his gaze for someone who could conjure such a technique, and finally found him on the second floor of the building. The man asked the infected people and the military if 6 seconds was enough time for them to rethink the situation and think about their behavior. A man appeared and asked what should be done during the war. The man standing next to him admitted that everyone was too nervous because of the recent increase in monster incidents. The first man to speak was Lieutenant Colonel Chu Xian. Chu Xian was one of the top military commanders of Zioxi City, equipped with an unusual weapon, the Chapel of Rest. Standing next to him was Lieutenant Colonel Xu Bohan. Xu Bohan is one of the top military commanders of Zioxi City, equipped with an unusual weapon, Whispering Hunger. Jiang Weng immediately stared at Chu Xian, for this was the very person he had been ordered to kill by Lord Ju Ming. However, such a mission was incredibly difficult considering the unusual weapon Chu Xian had just seen him wield. Against the Chapel of Rest weapon, the guy was completely helpless. Suddenly, Jiang Weng felt something inside of him. He felt the statue inside him start to react again. The guy realized that another key to unlock another statue was right in front of him. One of the guards grabbed Xu Jie's shoulder with his hand and then admitted to Chu Xian that Xu Jie was the first to attack the guards and provoke the conflict. He confessed that he suspected that Xu Jie had mutated and therefore demanded a harsh punishment for Xu Jie. Chu Xian began to stare intently at the guy as if studying him. Then he announced that number 7764, Xu Jie, next week, in addition to doing his daily tasks, would go to the logistics department to work overtime for 2 hours. The guard began to complain that Chu Xian had given the guy too lenient a punishment. Xu Jie didn't argue and only accepted the punishment Chu Xian gave him. Jiang Weng still couldn't take his eyes off Chu Xian. Xu Bohan then stepped in and announced that the incident was over. He ordered that the medical examination should be done on a few people at a time, and also informed that the injured should be treated first. After that, he even thanked everyone for the hard work they were doing. This time, no one dared to continue arguing with the guards or Xu Bohan and Chu Xian. Jiang Weng wasted no time in telling Golden Crow to secretly follow Chu Xian. Golden Crow wondered if Jiang Weng was sure he wanted to kill Chu Xian. The guy admitted with regret in his voice that Ju Ming had forced them down this path. Since they could not oppose Ju Ming right now, eliminating Chu Xian was the only option at the moment. He decided to take the risk. The guy once again ordered Golden Crow to go after Chu Xian and secretly follow and, most importantly, not allow himself to be discovered. And after he passed the medical examination, then they would meet. The Golden Crow instantly flew out and quickly flew past the feet of all the guards. Meanwhile, in the administration building, Golden Crow Number 2, Darcy flew up to one of the security cameras and ripped out the camera. Golden Crow Number 1, Yoshi was looking around at this time, hiding behind a trash can. Golden Crow Number 3, Touch the West, attacked one of the guards walking by. Yoshi reported that no one was present. However, Touch the West corrected her, noticing that there was a guard standing on the left and the necessary door was on the right. Darcy noted that they only had 30 seconds. They all began to peek out from around the corner, looking around for when danger would appear. At this moment, Jiang Weng appeared beside them, noting that they had managed to successfully infiltrate the Xiangyu administrative building. The guy didn't expect the security measures to be so lax. He even thought that everything was so lightly guarded because almost everyone had been sent off to fight. He even started praying for things to work out. However, at this moment, Chu Xian felt something, as if he sensed the gazes of all the Golden Crow and Guy. Jiang Weng and Golden Crow, who seemed to think that they were acting silently, were not quiet at all. When Chu Xian tensed up, Shu Bohan, noticing his change, immediately asked him if everything was all right. Chu Xian informed him that he suddenly felt the urge to go to the toilet. Shu Bohan exhaled because he thought that something had already happened. He even offered to go to the restroom together. Hearing their conversation, Jiang Weng didn't understand what was wrong with the two people in front of him. He noticed that they were quite old to go to the restroom together. He even admitted to himself that he would definitely write a bunch of fan fictions about a very strong male friendship. In the end, Jiang Weng told Golden Crow 3 to stay in the security room and distract Shu Bohan for a while. Golden Crow 3 accepted the order by saluting with her left hand. She then walked to the microphone and announced that someone was looking for Shu Bohan at the door downstairs. She also explained that the person had reported that it was an emergency. Hearing that someone was looking for him, Shu Bohan was greatly surprised, as he had no idea who would be looking for him in this way. At this moment, Chu Xian began to suspect something. Shu Bohan decided that he had no choice and that he had to go. Before he left, he even announced that they would pee together next time. After Shu Bohan left, Chu Xian went into the restroom. Jiang Weng was glad that Chu Xian was finally alone. Before heading to the restroom, Jiang Weng told Golden Crow 3 to stay in the observation room to monitor the situation. Golden Crow 3 corrected him by calling herself Touch the West. The guy then told Golden Crow 2 to stand guard at the restroom door to keep out any uninvited guests. Golden Crow 2 also corrected him by informing him that her name was Darcy. He then told Golden Crow 1 to follow him to the restroom. But Yoshi began to complain that it was a men's restroom, and how could she even go in there? The guy didn't care about such silly questions. All of his attention was focused on the fact that Chu Xian possessed an unusual weapon that could create a brief stoppage of everyone within a certain range. Therefore, he felt that before approaching Chu Xian, they should have a backup plan. So he told Golden Crow 1 to follow him, but to keep a certain distance to avoid unforeseen circumstances. The guy headed for the restroom, Yoshi flying after him at a certain distance, and Darcy watching with a nonchalant expression to make sure no one disturbed them. Walking into the restroom, the guy found Chu Xian, who was standing calmly near one of the urinals. With a nonchalant look, Jiang Weng walked around the restroom and stood at the neighboring urinal with Chu Xian. If Shu Bohan finds out about it, he will be incredibly envious of the guy. Yoshi closed her eyes, unable to watch the men pee. In the end, Jiang Weng turned to Chu Xian. He reported that he was the infected person with the head of a dog, number 7763, Jiang Weng. He also confessed that he wanted to be a good person. The guy managed to get the attention of Chu Xian, who stared at the guy. Jiang Weng confessed that there were rumors recently that there was a spy in Xiangyu, and he mentioned that he thought that this spy might be himself. Yoshi, who heard this conversation, could not understand what Jiang Weng was doing and why he decided to reveal his true identity. At this moment, Chu Xian stared menacingly at the guy and asked the guy to repeat what he had just said. Not the least bit embarrassed, Jiang Weng repeated that he was a spy, but he only wanted to admit it to Chu Xian. In his thoughts, he even complained that he needed more time to pee. The guy confessed that a big demon had arrived in the north of Zioxi City and that he had threatened the guy to make the guy become a spy. Letting tears well up in his eyes, Jiang Weng revealed that the demon had taken his sister hostage, and after all, the girl was as dear to him as his own sister. Therefore, with sadness in his voice, he stated that he could not disobey the demon. Looking out from behind the corner, Yoshi realized that the guy seemed to be up to something. The guy's head began to turn into a dog's head, and his body was enveloped by lightning as he declared that even if he dies, he must kill Chu Xian. The man stared at the guy with a shrewd gaze. At this moment, Shu Bohan arrived at the first floor. He discovered quite quickly that no one was there and that it was probably some kind of prank. He arrived at the office, but Chu Xian was not in his office. So he went back to the restroom, but as soon as he opened the restroom door, Chu Xian's body fell from there. Meanwhile, in the north of Zioxi City, Hanabi began to look for Lord Juming. She happily reported that Lord Huodu had succeeded in doing what Lord Juming had asked him to do. She once again reported that Lord Huodu had killed the target, Chu Xian. The monsters were shocked that Lord Huodu was able to kill Chu Xian so quickly. It took him less than 1 day to destroy Chu Xian. The monsters couldn't believe it because Chu Xian was known to be the strongest barrier of Xiangyu. The monsters were shocked that Chu Xian was destroyed in one fell swoop. They were even anticipating how fast they would be able to capture Xiangyu now. The boar was glad that Lord Huodu had once again returned to Olympus. He was glad that the Lord had turned out to be really cool. However, another monster corrected the boar's words. Monster said that everything had only worked out because of Lord Ju Ming's good leadership. He stated that everything only worked out because Lord Ju Ming gave Lord Huodu good motivation. Everyone began to shout out Lord Ju Ming's name. The boar, realizing that he was powerless to do anything now, covered his mouth with his hand and started shouting out the words along with the others. However, Lord Ju Ming was not joyful like all the other monsters around him. 10 years ago, before the Battle of the Four Monsters, while in the dilapidated building, Ju Ming told Huodu that humans were just lowly creatures full of weaknesses. He saw through their self-deception and vanity, but they covered themselves with concepts such as friendship, family affection, a sense of shame, and a sense of honor. Ju Ming believed that people could be killed easily. He said that there are so-called schools in the south of Zhejiang province. There were still human children gathered in these places. In addition, there were more than 10 such places. Ju Ming believed that one could easily capture them and make puppets out of them. Besides, one of his monsters is their favorite. And then he wanted to let these crazy little ghosts infiltrate emotionally rich adults, watching them suffer and fall down. He even called it true beauty. However, Lord Huodu did not share his interests and notions of beauty. He called Ju Ming an idiot, noting that such an approach would only make people even more angry. He also said that the idea Ju Ming is telling him about is incredibly stupid and is only needed to satisfy his perverted whims. Furthermore, the most important thing was that he didn't like Ju Ming's dirty tricks. Lord Huodu explained that according to his rules, if you want to fight, then just fight. The other two lords didn't cross him or even stutter to say anything about it. Remembering past events in the present tense, Ju Ming pondered over Hanabi's words as he walked down the corridor. After tracing from around the corner that Lord Ju Ming had left, the boar exhaled heavily. The boar began to tell the other monsters that Lord Ju Ming obviously wanted to frame Lord Huodu. However, the boar pointed out that Lord Huodu had too many supporters, so Lord Ju Ming couldn't just do evil. He even remarked that Lord Ju Ming has made an excuse that if Chu Xian is not killed, Lord Huodu's identity will be revealed. The boar even pointed out that Lord Huodu had flawlessly accomplished the mission, but Lord Ju Ming had simply taken credit for it. The other monsters asked the boar to be careful as someone might hear him. The boar, without listening to them, continued that Lord Ju Ming dared to do something like this and that he likes to do dirty tricks. Suddenly, the monsters in front of the boar trembled in fright. The boar did not pay any attention to their reaction at all. He even enthusiastically declared that if Lord Ju Ming dared to harm Lord Huodu, he would personally beat him up personally because he had a bad temper. The monsters standing in front of the boar were about to piss their pants in fear. Only now did the boar notice the strange reaction of the monsters. Behind the boar were several giant snakes. The boar realized that perhaps his end had come. The snakes were so gigantic that the monsters looked like ants in comparison. Meanwhile, the alarm was raised in Xiangyu. All the guards put on their weapons and went on alert. Xu Bohan announced that until the murderer was found, not even a fly was allowed to leave Xiangyu. Jiang Weng meanwhile returned to his room, which looked more like a prison cell. Golden Crow announced martial law had been declared in all of Xiangju. She didn't know how far the investigation would go, but she hoped they didn't leave any evidence behind. Jiang Weng realized that all he had to do now was to buy some time for a breather. He had completed the task perfectly, and his reputation among the monsters would help him survive for a while. But he also realized that Ju Ming would continue to look for ways to kill him. After listening to the guy in the restroom, Chu Xian remarked that it looked like he would have to die then, just like what the guy wanted. However, Jiang Weng was still planning to escape from Xiangyu. After thinking for a bit, he ordered Golden Crow to go to Shaguan City to find clues about the locksmith to remove the collar from his neck. With this method, if he had a chance to go outside of Xiangyu for a day or two, he would be able to go to Shaguan immediately. Such a plan would allow him to avoid many uncertainties and greatly increase his chances of removing his collar. Golden Crow wondered why the guy wouldn't just pretend to be dead like last time. Jiang Weng believed that the same trick would be easy to detect if it was used a second time. Besides, now was a special period where everyone in Shangyu was on guard. Plus, he noticed that there were other situations that were different from the previous ones. He admitted that if he was alone, with the help of the monsters outside and inside, he would be able to escape. However, the situation was different now because the others considered him a friend. Since they were now friends, he didn't want to leave his friends in trouble. At least he was going to ask his friends, though, if they would go along with him or not. The only one he wasn't sure about was Ling Bo, who he wanted to cross off his friends list. Did the guy take offense to the way Ling Bo had set him up? While in his room, the guy passed a note to Nurse Wei through the bars on the door. He asked the girl to pass the 2 notes to Ling Bo and Leia. However, the guy did not know where they were. Nevertheless, the nurse agreed to his request and was even willing to find Ling Bo and Leia herself. Jiang Weng thanked the girl, promising to do his best if she needed any help. Nurse Wei, on the other hand, only wished that the guy would get less injuries. She wasn't worried about his health, only that she would have to deal with his injuries later. The guy, in response to her request, extended his hand from the bars on the door and showed her the heart sign with his fingers. The nurse just waved goodbye. Next, he decided to think about his next move. While the notes would be delivered and they would be answered, he needed to organize the next things to do. Together with his supporters, he had to find a way to remove the collar. He even contemplated that the letter might be accidentally checked, but he didn't see that as a big deal, even if it was found by someone from the guards. The guy realized that the content of the note would be seen by ordinary people as a collection of a debt. Do you remember what happened on the 23rd of last month? How is the money you borrowed from me? When will you give the money back? Actually, the sentence in the middle is just misleading information. The key point is the date of the 23rd of last month. What happened on that day, only they knew, so the rest of the group should definitely understand what he was hinting at in the note. On the 23rd of last month, they were resting, and at this moment, they were wondering if they still wanted to do so. Upon receiving the note, Ling Bo immediately thought that the kobold was hinting that he wanted to escape. Leia, on the other hand, did not understand his hint at all. After reading the note, she looked at it with a confused look because she didn't borrow money from the dog. She couldn't understand what the dog wanted from her and what the 23rd day of last month had to do with it. Jiang Weng bragged to himself that he was so smart. From Xu Jie, he was going to ask directly when the guy came back from work, since Guy had been helping with the logistics department for the past 2 weeks. When Xu Jie returned, the guy told him about his plan. Xu Jie was a little surprised to hear that the guy was proposing to escape from Shangyu altogether. He realized that if something went wrong, they could all be killed. However, he still agreed to escape from this place with the others. Xu Jie informed that before they tried to escape, he wanted to do one more thing. Jiang Weng did not understand what he meant. Xu Jie revealed that he had been helping out in the logistics department for the past 2 weeks. The job of the logistics department is to mop up the battlefield and extract the organs of the monsters that are still alive, and then send them to the lab for research. He had been there just recently and had heard that many people in the logistics department had been held accountable. As it turned out, the theft of the organs taken from the monsters had been happening regularly over the past few months. The case that Ling Bo had sent them to investigate was actually not an isolated case. Reflecting on this, Jiang Weng admitted to himself that he had guessed it long ago. All signs pointed to the fact that the Jiangyu officials were involved in organ theft. Wang Ai was just a scapegoat. He concluded that there must be a bigger organizer behind the scenes. In his previous life, this would have been a routine matter. Jiang Weng felt that they needed to escape as soon as possible and couldn't care about these trivial things. Xu Jie was upset because Uncle Mao really takes good care of him, so he didn't want his uncle to be involved in the theft. Jiang Weng couldn't understand who Uncle Mao even was. It was actually Mr. Lin Mao from the logistics department. Suddenly, a loud noise reached Jiang Weng and Xu Jie's ears. A giant mouth appeared in the Xiangju territory. Jiang Weng couldn't understand what was even happening, and Xu Jie assumed that the noise was coming from the neighboring room. The door of the neighboring room was smashed out along with a piece of the wall with a single blow. A huge monster appeared from the neighboring one and let out a terrifying roar. There were shouts everywhere about the appearance of the monster. The guards immediately shouted that the infected man was out of control. Shujie looked slightly out of his room through the door and was incredibly shocked. With trembling lips, he only said, "Uncle Mao." The giant monster continued to smash everything around him, that shards of rocks from the room were flying in all directions. Everyone started calling for security. The nurse reported that infected individuals below level C were non-combatant. She told them to call for security as well. However, it was a mistake for her to stand in such an open place right next to the monster. It was as if the monster saw a red rag and tried to pounce on the nurse, swinging its giant arms. At the last moment, Jiang Weng ran up to the nurse, grabbed her in his arms, and jumped aside with her. As a result, the red monster slammed its fists against the floor. Stone and metal pipes flew in different directions behind the guy and the nurse who was in his arms. Jiang Weng asked Nurse Wei if she was all right. The girl was scared, although she was fine, but the guy was injured again. The guy didn't have time to keep chatting with the nurse, so he turned towards the monster. The red monster was letting out a terrifying roar while emitting a hissing sound. The monster was staring at Shuji, who was standing not far away from him. The guy looked at the monster that used to be Uncle Mao with fear and horror. He still couldn't believe that the monster standing in front of him was Uncle Mao. He remembered how recently Uncle Mao had been surprised that the guy was sent to help them in the logistics department. He believed that young people should be doing more important things than this work. One afternoon, Uncle Mao happily handed the guy a candy, telling him that his grandson turned 1 year old today. Shujie remembered how Uncle Mao, while he was working, suddenly told him that the infection index in this part was high, so he asked to do everything by himself in this place and asked them to move as far away from the place with high infection index as possible. At that moment, Uncle Mao told the guy with a smile that the logistics department was in constant contact with infectious substances, so he asked the guy to help him if he lost control one day. Uncle Mao asked the guy not to be soft-hearted and cut his life short. Trying to gain determination, Shujie gathered his strength. He shouted to Uncle Mao that he knew what he had to do. The guy used his ability and attacked the monster with lightning using his blood. The monster received a powerful electric shock and fell to the floor. Shujie was too upset that he had to do this because Uncle Mao had turned into a monster. Jiang Weng supported the guy by placing his right hand on his head. Jiang Weng reminded the guy that he had said this before, so the guy shouldn't worry about it, because there was no need to face such things. Only after that did the guards in full uniform finally arrive. The head guard told everyone to stop, informing also that there were infected people who were mutating. He also inquired who had just been in a fight. The guard grabbed Jiang Weng by the shoulder and informed him that he would be temporarily kept in another room. Shujie, on the other hand, was declared mentally insane by the guard, so he decided that the guy should be in solitary confinement and undergo a medical examination. The guard ran up to the man who had just approached. The guard then informed him that there were no additional casualties. This person was Liu Chengfeng, the captain of the 3rd Xiangju Task Force. After a quick look around, he decided to leave the guards to deal with the consequences and left. The guy was immediately locked up in a cell. He told Dawu to follow the captain, though the girl corrected him that her name was Darcy. Darcy flew after the captain, and the guy kept thinking that all of this was no accident. Uncle Mao was often in contact with infectious substances, so he had to be checked every day. The guy didn't understand then why Uncle Mao suddenly lost control. He was tormented as to why security hadn't arrived after the situation got out of hand. The collar is also needed to keep the infected from getting out of control. The guy also couldn't understand then why the collar didn't explode. Plus, from his observations, it was as if the captain was disappointed that there were no additional casualties. Jiang Weng came to the disappointing conclusion that the captain wanted as many additional victims as possible. The guy quickly noticed that the captain was causing him very similar feelings to Wang Ai. An incident occurred where the monster's organs were stolen, causing the infected to lose control. The guy increasingly suspected that the same group of people who were causing trouble were still acting. He really didn't want to get involved in their affairs. Soon he heard through Darcy, the captain, talking to someone on the phone. He reported on the phone that things had indeed gotten easier without Chu Xian. The other person told the captain to point out that Lin Mao had been exposed to pollutants for a long time and for the captain to forge the inspection report. The captain reported that Lin Mao immediately lost control, and the effect was astonishing. But this old man was weak even when he turned into a monster and was killed by Shu Jie number 7764 without causing much casualties. But since there was already a successful case, it was necessary to use this method further. He even thought of some improvements. The infected person's collar has an electric shock function. He wondered if repeated electric shocks would increase the frequency of loss of control. He was having so much fun that he couldn't hide his smile. The captain couldn't wait to find out who would be chosen as the next test subject. In the end, the captain decided that since number 7764 Shu Ji had interfered with their good deeds, he should compensate them. The captain couldn't hide his bloodthirsty and anticipatory smile. But Jiang Weng, who had heard all of this, was not particularly pleased with what he heard. Darcy was also surprised by the captain's words. The guy grabbed the flower and immediately said hello to his loyal fan. The captain was suddenly alert, as if he sensed something. At the same instant, the ground around the tree near where the captain was standing began to crack, much to the captain's bewilderment. It turns out that the Hanabi had invaded Xiang Yu with the help of her plants. She instantly found the captain, informing Lord Huodu about it. Without an ounce of doubt, the fellow ordered Hanabi to kill the captain. Hanabi, as if she had been waiting for this order her entire life, excitedly attacked the captain. A large number of giant plants instantly emerged from the ground around the captain. Hanabi then entangled all these vines around the captain into a ball. The person on the phone with him was trying to find out what Liu Chengfeng's situation was. A deafening siren sounded in Xiangyu, announcing the invasion. The guards quickly prepared for battle, as they expected an invasion of monsters. The guards found the girl rather quickly, realizing that she was outside the fence. The guy in the room informed the girl that she would be spotted pretty quickly, so he asked the girl to let him out. The guy in the room with him didn't realize what was going on at all. At the same instant, Hanabi brought her plants down on the wall, and the guards reported that the monster had destroyed the prison wall of Area C. The guards kept shouting that the monster had destroyed the prison wall of Area C. Jiang Weng really didn't want to worry about these little things with monster organ theft. However, the captain pissed him off so much that he literally forced him to solve this problem. The captain at this time was panting, entangled and squeezed by the Hanabi vines. He had signed his own death warrant when he couldn't even detect the tracking and opened his filthy mouth. Lord Huodu would hardly mind getting rid of such trash. At that moment, Shu Bohan rushed out of the building and angrily told the monsters not to think that now that Chu Xian was gone, Xiang Yu was abandoned. He angrily told the monster not to run away from him. After that, he ordered the third team to go with him while the rest guarded Xiang Yu. Then he and the third team got into their cars and drove out of the Xiang Yu gates. Hanabi mocked the military, admitting that Lord Huodu had already given her orders on what to do next. Earlier, Jiang Weng had told the girl that her main task would be to cause chaos. And after she caused chaos, she had to flee immediately. He admitted that Hanabi would not be able to defeat anyone on Xiang Yu's territory. Hanabi ran as fast as she could while the military pursued her, but she was not afraid because she felt that Lord Huodu cared about her. While Shu Bohan was away, Jiang Weng decided to take action. Liu Chengfeng, who was trapped in a cocoon of vines, was still making futile attempts to get out. He finally realized that this attack was aimed at him. Therefore, using his weapon, he fiercely declared not to be underestimated. He even called himself the commander at this point, though he quickly corrected himself, as he was only the deputy commander. However, at this moment, some of the vines retreated to the sides, forming a small passage like a door. In this passage, a figure appeared. From the dazzling light, Liu Chengfeng could not see who it was. As soon as the guy walked forward, the passage of vines started to slowly close behind him. Jiang Weng quickly noticed that Liu Chengfeng had a jellyfish armor item that belonged to Wang Ai. He even joked that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Liu Chengfeng was still trying to figure out who appeared in front of him. Jiang Weng replied that he was his father. As it turned out, Jiang Weng quickly wrapped a piece of cloth around his face. Although his features were quite visible and recognizable, Liu Chengfeng quickly noticed that the unknown guy was wearing a collar, which meant that the guy in front of him was one of the infected people. Liu Chengfeng started yelling at the guy, noting that the guy was so brave since he decided to attack him. However, Jiang Weng no longer wanted any more sounds to come out of Liu Chengfeng's vile mouth. Therefore, he kicked Liu Chengfeng with his foot. But Liu Chengfeng had jellyfish armor, so he was able to defend himself from this kick. He still thought he was the commander, even though he was actually the deputy. Liu Chengfeng even grinned, thinking that an infected person wouldn't be able to break through the jellyfish armor since the jellyfish armor was an absolute defense that couldn't be broken. However, at this moment, one of the golden crow flew towards him and used a fire attack. Liu Chengfeng cried out in pain as he didn't expect it at all. Jiang Weng grabbed the jellyfish armor with his hands and tried to peel it off Liu Chengfeng, arrogantly noting that his absolute defense was pathetic compared to Gara. After all, Gara could cover an entire Konoha village with its sand, and a little thing like jellyfish armor isn't even enough to cover Liu Chengfeng's body. Liu Chengfeng couldn't understand what other Konoha village the guy was referring to. After he removed the jellyfish armor from Liu Chengfeng's body, he declared to him that from now on, the jellyfish armor belonged to him. After that, he even arrogantly declared that Liu Chengfeng, without his armor, was just an empty space. Seeing Jiang Weng swing to strike him, Liu Chengfeng squealed in fear. Completely undeterred, Jiang Weng struck Liu Chengfeng with his fist shrouded in jellyfish armor. He declared that their time was too short, therefore he demanded answers to his 3 questions. Jiang Weng clarified that Liu Chengfeng had to answer honestly, or else he would be in trouble. Although what he was really worried about was that the guards would arrive soon. Jiang Weng demanded Liu Chengfeng to answer about who was his boss, who was running things behind the scenes. Despite the beatings, Liu Chengfeng refused to give any information about his boss. So the first thing he did was to call the guards for help, shouting at the top of his voice that a riot had started. Jiang Weng didn't like Liu Chengfeng's response, and with a slight movement of his hand, he sent Liu Chengfeng to lie on the ground some more. Standing over him, as if showing him who was in charge in this situation, he demanded an answer to the second question. He was curious about the purpose of stealing organs and causing mutations. Liu Chengfeng spoke up this time, informing him that it was about experiments and that more monster organs were needed for experiments. After that, he even asked the guy not to beat him up anymore. But at this moment, he received another leg kick from Jiang Weng. Liu Chengfeng didn't understand why the guy hit him this time. After all, he had honestly answered the guy's question. Not stopping there, Jiang Weng announced that it was time for the third question. He was dissatisfied with the fact that the infected people in Xiangyu were fighting alongside the military against the monsters. He wondered why the infected people, who were supposed to be considered colleagues of the military, were being treated horribly. Although Liu Chengfeng was incredibly hurt, he couldn't hold back his laughter after hearing the guy's question. He stated that they were infected people, and infected people were tools and materials. Besides, the infected had to turn into monsters anyway. Jiang Weng was astonished after the words that flew out of Liu Chengfeng's mouth. He found that there was not even a shadow of shame in Liu Chengfeng's eyes for what he had done. Liu Chengfeng was sincere in his answer, so the guy thought it was hopeless. After this response from Liu Chengfeng, the guy didn't hold back and beat him up properly. Golden Crow reminded him that if they beat Liu Chengfeng like this, they would never be able to find out anything from him, which meant they wouldn't be able to recognize the main person in the scheme who was behind all this mayhem. However, picking up Liu Chengfeng's phone from the ground, Jiang Weng said that there was nothing wrong with it, as everything was going according to plan. The guy reminded her that Liu Chengfeng was just calling a customer, so all they have to do is check Liu Chengfeng's phone and find out who the customer is. Looking into Liu Chengfeng's phone, Jiang Weng and Golden Crow were surprised. Liu Chengfeng had listed the customer in the phone as the most respected leader. The guy was amazed at what a sycophant Liu Chengfeng really was. The guy was angry but wanted to follow the plan. He decided to call the customer back to elicit everything he needed. After that, he dialed the phone number of the most respected leader. After waiting for several phone beeps, an unknown man finally answered his call. Meanwhile, Hanabi continued to run away from Shubohan and the rest of the military. The girl openly mocked them. She stated that they didn't stand a chance of catching her, and after she recommended that they catch the wind after her, she jumped straight into the sea. Shu Bohan got out of the car and was extremely displeased that the monster had escaped into the sea. He realized that she had planned all of this in advance. Shu Bohan refused to give up on this, angrily declaring that he was obligated to catch the monster today. Whereupon his left hand glowed, as if the runic inscriptions written on his hand had lit up. The subordinate was surprised that Shu Bohan was willing to use his ability right now. Shu Bohan refused to hold back and activated his weapon, Whispering Hunger. Hanabi was sailing as far away from the military as possible, at full speed and with a good mood, when suddenly she was caught up by the attack of Whispering Hunger's weapon. Hanabi was trying to figure out what was even happening right now. However, at that moment, a literal hole appeared in the sea, as if someone had swallowed up the water within a certain area. With his Whispering Hunger weapon, Shu Bohan tried to catch Hanabi. The subordinate had seen all of this so many times before, but was still shocked by what he saw this time. However, Shu Bohan was not amused, he was extremely annoyed, and his stomach rumbled. The subordinate extremely disliked the side effect of the Whispering Hung weapon when the user's stomach started to ache. Shu Bohan stated that he could restrain himself and then told the subordinate to go see what happened to the enemy. Hanabi, who was underwater, looked fearfully at a part of her hair that had literally disappeared as if someone had eaten it. She realized that just a little bit more, and she could die. The subordinate looked in the direction of the monster. He noted that the monster was still alive and well, and even had a new hairstyle, and that Shu Bohan was a loser. Shu Bohan became furious at his words. Holding his stomach with his last strength, he decided to try using Whispering Hung once more. However, his subordinate rightly pointed out to him that he would definitely shit his pants then. Hanabi came out of her stupor, not wanting to hesitate any longer. She swam away from Shu Bohan at full speed. Shu Bohan appeared incredibly upset by the incident. However, they didn't have to be sad for long, as they suddenly heard a mysterious melody coming from somewhere. At the same instant, someone began to appear from the water. That someone was Lord Ju Ming. Shu Bohan was incredibly surprised to see Ju Ming now. His subordinate and the rest of the military weren't thrilled about the encounter either. Meanwhile, Jiang Weng was surprised when he heard the voice that came from the phone, for this voice seemed familiar to him. At the same moment, the guards began to approach the vine's cocoon. They knew that Liu Chengfeng was inside the vine's cocoon. Realizing that the guards had already arrived at the place, Jiang Weng decided that it was a good time to escape. But he couldn't escape quietly, as one of the guards spotted him. Running away from the many guards who were now chasing him, Jiang Weng pondered over what had just happened. He wasn't completely sure if his assumption was correct. He still had one more step to go, and then he would be able to take out the customer. If he was caught now, then everything would be ruined. After that, Jiang Weng ran around the corner of the building. The guards ran after him around the corner of the building, continuing to order him to stop. However, once they ran around the corner of the building, they found many infected people there. The guards started yelling at them, wondering what they were doing here. One of the infected complained that part of the building was destroyed because of some monster, so they went out to get some fresh air. The guard continued the interrogation, asking who just ran by. A man with a bald head stated that they didn't know anything, as they were just walking around. The other man noted that they hadn't noticed anyone. Jiang Weng exhaled a sigh of relief after hearing the infected's testimony. After that, one of the guards asked everyone to wait, as he needed to make a phone call to get instructions from his superiors. After that, he made a phone call and reported that one of the infected was at the scene with Liu Chengfeng, and that this infected had mingled with the crowd. Hearing the report, the unknown person who is the customer for the organ case told the security guard to grab everyone. The guard immediately announced that all the infected should line up in a row. He then ordered that all the infected be placed one by one in isolation cells so that all infected would be tested. Realizing that things were not going well, Jiang Weng told Golden Crow to urgently pass a note to Shuji's mom in the store. He even further specified that it should be done as soon as possible. The guy realized that there was a race against time coming up. He was going to see if he would kill the customer or if the customer would die by his hand. Golden Crow was quick to point out that it was the same thing. Meanwhile, Shu Bohan continued his introduction to Ju Ming. After all, Lord Juming himself, number YC0283, appeared in front of him. The same Juming from the Four-Monster War 10 years ago. Xu Bohan didn't expect to see him here at all. After all, he remembered that Juming had been severely injured during the Battle of the Four Monsters. He wondered if Juming had recovered his strength. The subordinate admitted that he had read information about Juming in the archives, and that he was a demonic-level monster that used 9 sets of sound waves as weapons, and singing one of them could cause people to hallucinate. After that, the subordinate told the others to immediately cover their ears to prevent themselves from losing their minds. At that moment, one of the military men ran up to him and threw a sword at him. Now the subordinate was faced with a dilemma, for if he covered his ears, he would not be able to fight, and if he fought, he would not be able to cover his ears. In the end, he pushed his doubts aside, deciding that all that remained was mortal combat, until his mind was consumed by darkness. He was actually the commander of Xiang Yu's 3rd Special Squad, Gu Lingcheng. His weapon of choice was the ice blade. However, at this moment, Xu Bohan intervened. He stated that there was no need to die in vain, as Gu Lingcheng would not be able to do any significant damage to Juming. Would Xu Bohan in his current state be able to resist Juming, or would Xiang Yu lose another commander? And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you would like to see a sequel, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your wishes in the comments. You can also subscribe to Telegram to know about new videos. Bye everybody.